Hey, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was betrayed by Konoha but became the king of the underworld? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Catch me if you can. Shouted our hyperactive dumb ass. Sweet Cammy, I hate acting so stupid. At least they underestimate me by a lot when I do. With a sack on his back, he looked back and saw 4 Chunin and 2 Jonin on his tail. Unconsciously pushing chakra into his legs to go faster, he sped up to the point where he was a blur to anyone under Chunin. Unfortunately for him, he was being chased by Chunin and higher, and his shout had attracted an Anbu on patrol. Shit, he thought to himself, trying to go faster. Still whizzing by, he headed towards a corner with a light post. Grabbing the pole, he swung himself around the corner, heading back into the shopping district. He flew by a stand, pulling on a container of apples. One of the Chunin stopped to help the owner of the stand, all while sending dirty looks in the blonde Jinchuriki's direction. Looking back, the blonde saw that the Anbu was gaining on him. With a start, he realized he was also beginning to slow down. Soon the Anbu was able to reach out and make a grab at his shirt. Thinking quickly, he made a sharp turn into an alley he was familiar with. Very familiar with, actually. Hearing a crash, he knew, without looking back, the Anbu had crashed into one of the stands, putting him out of commission for a while. Using the ninja's surprise to his advantage, he quickly went deeper into the alley, going as fast as his legs could carry him. One of the Jonin set off a tripwire, causing various scavenged kunai to come shooting out at them all. This gave Naruto the chance to get ahead for a few seconds. Not much, but that was all he needed. Going by an abandoned building, he smiled, nearly home free. He reached a dead end, and the Jonin had come back into sight, the Chunin a second or two behind. He jumped into a dumpster right as the Jonin got to him, causing them all to smirk. Finally got the little shit, the unnamed Jonin in the front muttered, voicing the shared thoughts of his comrades. Going up to the dumpster, he said in an authoritative tone, "Under Konoha law, you are hereby under arrest for petty larceny. Surrender or we will be entitled to use force." As calmly as he said this, one could hear the malicious pleading in his voice. I really hope this kid fights back. I've just wanted one fucking reason, to smash this punk's face in. When he heard no movement in the dumpster, he smiled, thinking he could finally get his wish. With malicious glee, he flung the cover open, ready to fill all visible non-lethal spots with kunai. To the surprise of the Jonin, and every ninja present for that matter, it was devoid of anything. This fucking kid, was the shared thought of all of them. On the other side of the abandoned building, in a separate alley, Naruto was laughing to himself while making his way to a manhole. Dumb asses. Did they really think they could catch me? Me? Ha. Well, Naru-chan, you can't really expect a normal ninja to keep up with you. Just my being here made you better than most genin by the age of 4. Hee hee, well I'm 5 now, and I'm able to escape Anbu. I think I deserve a little bragging, at least to myself. Yes, Naruto was 5 and escaping Anbu. How? Well, any relation to a being of supernatural nature, be it divine or demonic, will grant something to a mortal, beneficial or detrimental. Naruto had his body used as a cage for the strongest demon in existence at the moment, held back by a seal put in place and maintained by the power of the deity of death, the Shinigami. With the yuki of a demon being filtered into his system, his body grows at an accelerated rate due to his natural chakra working to keep up. Then the seal itself was increasing the flow of yuki into his body to attempt to drain the demon faster. How they're so close is a different story altogether. Going underground, he thought back to when they first met. Flashback no jutsu. Deep within the red light district of Konoha, Naruto was getting ready to go to his job. Be the male courier. God, that title sucks when I think about it, muttered our blonde protagonist. Looking up at the clock, he saw that it was nearly 6 a.m., meaning he was almost late. Fucking hell, Ba-chan will have my head if I don't get there soon. Rushing out of his house, he made his way to the red light district's local post office. Why would they hire a kid to deliver the mail? Well, the task would normally fall to the genin, in the form of D-rank missions, but the Sandame couldn't, in good conscience, send children into the red light district, regardless of whether they were genin, and technically adults, or not. This was the case for many places in the district, actually. Most parents don't want to raise a child next to a brothel, and most ninja had a reputation to uphold and didn't want to be seen leaving that area. Finally arriving at the post office, he went into the back to check if sorting was complete. Whilst heading to the sorting area, he passed by his boss's office and heard unfamiliar voices. After pausing a moment, he was about to keep moving before he caught a piece of the conversation that caught his attention. "Ya know, you are rather behind on your payments, Hitatsu-san. If you don't pay up soon, we may be forced to retrieve our own reimbursement from you. And I don't think you'll like that, Hitatsu-san," spoke an unknown, gravelly voice. He tried to keep his voice level, but anyone could hear the barely restrained anger in his voice. His poorly concealed threat did nothing to help his subtlety or lack thereof. I know, but I just don't have the money right now. I have little to no staff, and little to no business," spoke an elderly voice he would have been able to place immediately, even without the unknown man saying her name. Hitatsu Obaa-chan sounds worried. Did I do something? Was all Naruto was able to think before the conversation returned. Pressing his ear to the door so he wouldn't miss anything, he continued to listen in. "We don't care about your fucking problems. We saved your ass on the assertion that we would be paid back with interest. It has been 3 years and you haven't even come close. Now, either we take both you and your business and get every penny possible out of your wrinkly old ass, both literally and figuratively, or you have to think of something that will give us assurance of some sort of money coming in, and soon. The Yakuza may not be hurting in the money department, but we still take these matters seriously," a different voice said. "Yakuza? Oh shit on a stick. What the fuck did you get yourself into, Hitatsu Obaa-chan?" Thoughts of these kinds were the only thing running through young Naruto's mind. Growing up in the red light district, you either learn fast or die, and one of the first things he learned after the orphanage threw him out there was not to mess with the Yakuza. They could have you killed in an instant, and he'd seen it happen. The Konoha police force had little actual power in the red light district, so the Yakuza were the law. He also learned that showing weakness meant no respect. And no respect meant less, well, everything, good. Less job chances, less money, less housing. Less chance to survive. So, his Ba-chan sounding so desperate was all the more shocking for him. "Well, is there anything you need, or would like? It doesn't matter if you don't think I can get it," said Hitatsu in a more determined voice, "just tell me. I'll do what I can." "That sounds more like the Ba-chan I know," thought Naruto. "Well, if you really need to know, we don't really need much, besides our fucking money," he started, and Naruto could hear the glare in his voice. "We would like to have cheaper everything, goods, delivery, brothel promoting, ya know. I doubt you could do much in those areas, granny. You actually answer to Konoha legally to get the mail for some people, so you can't really be trusted with the goods, ya know." Letting out a relieved sigh, answered them after a moment to collect her thoughts. "What if I told you," she started in a victorious tone, "I had someone who could deliver your goods with little trouble, even when chased by Anbu?" "We'd say you're lying," replied the original man, "but we'll humor you. Let's say you do have this person to help you. What's to say he won't take any of our goods for himself, then blame us for not delivering the right amount? I feel like I should get out of here right now," was all Naruto got to think before he heard Hitatsu shout for him to get his ass in here. Grumbling about shitty luck, he made his way inside to the disbelieving stares of the 2 Yakuza representatives. "This is the guy? I sincerely hope you are just going senile, Hitatsu-san. Trust me," she said, directing their unnerving stare from the young boy who was beginning to crack. "He is able to get away from Anbu easily." "I wouldn't say easily, Ba-chan," stated Naruto before quickly covering his mouth with his hands, berating himself mentally for drawing their attention back to him. "And that," began the old lady once more, "is why I am sure he won't steal your merchandise. He was able to eavesdrop on us for a while before even I was able to notice, but he's still just a kid. He won't want any of what you want delivered. I can guarantee that much. I think we have a deal, Hitatsu-san. He delivers for us, and you get to keep your, well, everything. I hope this little shit doesn't quit, or you're both fucked." "Shit, why do I get the shitty luck, huh? I think I've gone through enough already, Kami-sama," he thought before pausing his internal ranting to look up. And no answer, as usual. And so began Naruto's introduction into Konoha's underworld. After the Yakuza had left, Naruto turned to Hitatsu and, in an oddly calm voice for someone in his situation, spoke to her. He started out, putting Hitatsu on edge, her thinking he might quit. Hope this means I get the rest of the day off, Ba-chan. Hitatsu could only blink in surprise as he continued. Seriously, if the Anbu catch this time, I am screwed. I need to go and prepare. Need some hair dye, a new shirt, maybe some darker pants too, he said, muttering the last part to himself as he looked down at his somewhat bright, green cargo shorts and old sleeveless hoodie. Search isolated Naruto in Google Images and look at the one where he has the shadow with 9 tails. The last thing I want is to get caught doing this by the old man. He'll give me that, "I'm so disappointed in you," speech. Meanwhile, Hitatsu was shocked that he was so nonchalant about being forced into illegal activities. She was about to ask him exactly that, but decided to keep her mouth shut and accept this as a little gift from above. "Thank you, Kami-sama." She was snapped back to reality when she heard Naruto calling her name. "Oi, Hitatsu Ba-chan. Can I, please?" Still not having too much manpower, she obviously responded with a resounding, "Hell no. Who do you think is gonna get stuff done around here?" Naruto could only sigh in defeat before leaving the room and doing the job he came to do. Before he got to the sorting area, he looked at a clock, turned around, and slammed his head into the wall with a shout of, "Fuck. I am so late today." He could hear Hitatsu's laughter from down the hall. Sighing, he continued on his way, mentally preparing himself for the annoyed looks he'd get for being so late, and the snickers for being seen in his mail satchel by those who weren't used to it. "I do look somewhat silly in that thing. Oh well. Sweet Kami," Naruto called out as he walked back into the post office. "That took forever today. At least Mr. Kodakuna didn't have one of his packages coming in. Hee, pervy old man." Naruto made his way to Hitatsu's office, looking to ask about where to go for the other deliveries for the Yakuza. He came in to find her taking a nap. "You motherfucker," was all he could think. "Making me work while you take a Kami-damned nap." Then he noticed a small orange book on her desk. "Payback is a bitch, Ba-chan." So, without a second thought, he picked it up and put it in his hoodie pocket and silently got back outside her office. Once there, he placed the book on the ground, right out of view. Knocking on her door to wake her up, he called out, "I'm back, Ba-chan." Which had the expected effect of waking her up and ill effect of making her chuck a kunai at his face. Jerking his head to the side, he looked to his left and saw a kunai centimeters from his head before looking up at her in silent shock and no small amount of fear. He got no comfort there, finding the normally nice old lady glaring in his general direction with somewhat glazed over eyes, 2 more kunai in hand. With his mind was overloaded with both fear at nearly dying and awe at his Ba-chan's skill, he just passed out. I think you guys can tell what's coming. Mindscape. Taking deep breaths rapidly with his eyes closed, Naruto was trying to calm himself down. Finally getting his breathing back under control, he snapped his eyes open and shouted, "What the fuck, Hitatsu Ba-chan?" When he finally registered what was in front of his eyes, he saw that he wasn't in his Ba-chan's office anymore, or anywhere he recognized for that matter. Looking around, he noticed that he wasn't even in a building anymore. He was in a sewer. "I swear to every divine deity ever to exist in one form or another, when I find the person that threw me in a fucking sewer, I will rip off their head and shit down their neck," he said, shouting the last part. He then just paused in his anger and said, "I have always wanted to say that." Deciding that sitting around wouldn't help him get out, he got up and started walking. Not 10 seconds after, he heard laughter coming from down one of the tunnels. Thinking that he would rather find someone and ask them how to get out than walk around and hope for a ladder, he made his way towards its source. After a minute or two of light jogging, he reached an opening in the tunnel he was in. As he neared the entrance, he heard the laughter come to stop. Finding this a bit suspicious, he made his way in slowly. He looked around carefully, and found himself looking at a giant cage. "What the hell is this doing in a sewer?" was all he managed to get out before he heard a deep, booming voice tell him one thing. "Come closer, little one." Not quite trusting the voice, he made his way closer to the cage very slowly, making sure to stay an arm's length away. Not that it helped. Without warning, excessively large claws flashed towards him, being stopped only by the gate. The impact was strong enough that he was blown onto his ass, not that he would have been able to stay standing for much longer. His legs were shaking so much that they were unable to support him at that moment. Looking at the claw, one thought going through his mind, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. He was broken out of his wide-eyed, fear-induced stupor by a laugh similar to the one he was hearing earlier. Ha 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 ha. Oh my god, your face was fucking priceless. That was all the recently revealed giant fox was able to get out between its laughter. This went on for a few minutes before Naruto got annoyed at being ignored and laughed at. Deciding he'd had enough, he got back up and shouted, "Hey! I'm still here, you know. You could at least wait until I'm gone before you laugh at me." His blush from being laughed at did nothing to abate the fox's laughter. Glaring at the fox for just laughing at him, he turned away with a HMPH. This managed to break the huge fox out of its laughing fit, though a few chuckles still managed to escape from its maw. Deciding that its container, oblivious as he was to the fact, had been ignored enough, it turned his way with a smile, though tea looked somewhat intimidating on its face. "So, why are you here?" it asked, though the answer was already known. "I'm pretty sure the old monkey doesn't want you to meet me right now, so make it quick." Naruto's intelligent response was obviously, "What the hell are you talking about?" Looking somewhat surprised, the fox asked him something to confirm its suspicions. "You don't know of me?" "No, why would I be confused otherwise? Look behind me, and you'll have your answer as to who I am." Deciding that it couldn't hurt, Naruto peered behind the fox to find a swishing tail. No, 2 tails. No, 3. Looking around the fox, he saw multiple tails, so he thought, let me just count them all. Reaching a total of 9 tails, he turned back to the fox's grinning face and said, "Okay, how does the fact that you're a fox with 9 tails?" Trailing off and going wide-eyed at his own realization, he looked up at the fox with complete fear in his eyes and whispered, "Kyuubi?" Getting a nod of confirmation from the fox, Naruto decided that he wanted to know more. "Whenever I go into other parts of the village, people always seem to be whispering that when they see me." Solidifying his resolve, which was still shaky at best, he asked, "What are you doing in a sewer, Kyuubi-sama? Didn't the Yondaime kill you?" Letting out a low growl, Kyuubi decided to enlighten the boy. "Ha, as if the ninja could kill me. He did the only thing he could do and sealed me inside a baby." "You, actually." Kyuubi just ignored the shocked look on the boy's face and continued. "I'd say he kinda cheated though. I may be a nigh omnipotent demon, but he summoned a god. A fucking god. How is anything supposed to beat that? It's like an instant, I win, card. Complete and utter bull." Getting over his shock at the Kyuubi being sealed inside of him, because to him it made sense, he went on to being shocked that the big, bag Kyuubi was grumbling about the Yondaime cheating in their fight. Deciding he didn't want the Kyuubi to ramble to itself, and ignore him in the process, he asked, "Well, Kyuubi-sama, aren't ninjas expected to cheat?" "That's beside the point. Even in the ninja world, no one has an instant I win card like that. Even some of the strongest could lose from random chance, but a fucking god." Really? Seeing the Kyuubi's point, but disagreeing, he decided to change the subject to something he was curious about. "So, Kyuubi-sama, just Kyuubi is fine, Naruto. I've been here your whole life. Okay Kyuubi, how can I see you if you're sealed inside of me?" Seeing the reasoning behind his confusion, the Kyuubi decided to help him out. "Well, we're in a place where your mental energies are manifested into a physical form," said the Kyuubi, adding air quotes to the second physical. Nodding, Naruto asked another question. "Okay, follow-up question. Could you repeat what you just said in English please?" Sweat dropping at the question, the Kyuubi remembered that, regardless of how he acted, its host was still a child. Deciding to simplify, the Kyuubi thought for a moment before answering. "You could say that we are in your mind, specifically the seal, which is where your mind meets my own. What you see around you is a representation of your mind. My mind is a goddamn sewer." That was the first thing that popped into Naruto's mind. Laughing at the thought, the Kyuubi just brushed off its container's concerns. "Well, change it if you don't like it. I certainly won't mind. My paws haven't been dry since I was in your mom." Freezing at the comment, Naruto's head snapped to the Kyuubi, locking eyes with the beast. Deciding he needed answers, he asked the question. "You know my parents?" "Of course I know your parents. I've only been successfully sealed inside members of the Uzumaki clan. Seeing its container's shock at the mention of the Uzumaki clan, Kyuubi sighed. Okay, I guess a lot was kept from you. Gonna have to get you educated real quick here. Your mother was my second container, Uzumaki Kushina. Her enemies called her the aka no Shi, the Reed Death, due to her prowess in battle and combination of red hair and Miyuki. I assume you don't know what that is, yes? Getting a nod from her one-person audience, the Kyuubi explained. Think of Yuki as a demonic version of the chakra you ninjas normally use. I'm sure you know what that is, at least roughly. Now, your mother, as a person, was rather outgoing. Those who knew her loved her, and those who didn't couldn't help but smile when she smiled. Even though I was her prisoner, she made my stay as comfortable as possible, even letting me experience the world through her so I wasn't cut off from it during her entire life. A surprisingly soft smile came across the Kyuubi's face as it remembered his previous container. Naruto was shocked. He realized that the Kyuubi wasn't the monster the villagers said it was, but the smile was just so out of place in his mind. Wow, what kind of person was my mom if she could make a demon smile like that? He was pulled from his pondering of his mother when he heard the Kyuubi's voice resume. In her final moments when I was being sealed into you, she cried so much, though not because she was dying, but because she knew she'd be leaving you all alone. I'm sorry about her, Naruto. Naruto sat there, pondering about his mother and what he learned. Can you tell me how she died? I can't just tell him that she died from being impaled on my claw. He'll hate me, but if I lie to him, he won't trust me. Sighing, the Kyuubi gave Naruto a response that he probably didn't want to hear. You aren't ready to know yet. There is so much tied into this that giving you some without the rest could give the wrong ideas. You don't need any more hatred in your heart at the moment. At first Naruto was angry when she said no, but he slowly gained an understanding look. Well, when will I be ready? Will I ever be ready? Damn right you'll be ready. All you need to do is get stronger. Staying silent for a moment, he then spoke, but in a much quieter voice. Can I know who my father is? Pitying the boy for being both alone and kept in the dark for his whole life, Kyuubi sighed and responded. Sure, his name was Minato Namikaze, and he was your Yondaime Hokage. Kyuubi paused to let it sink in, and it was a good thing too. Naruto froze for a second or so before his eyes turned to slits and he glared at the ground with such intensity that one would think it would have burst into flames. Then, the water began to bubble in the sewer, and the Kyuubi began to speak again, snapping him out of his angry thoughts. I understand that you're angered at your treatment by the people your father gave his life to protect, and the fact that he sealed a demon in you before leaving you alone in this world. The Kyuubi began, its words doing nothing to abate his anger, but think about it first. Would you have rather been spoiled and oblivious to the monsters behind their smiles, to the hatred of humans? Would you rather have never met your Ba-chan? Would you want a target on your back from other villages and factions who would see you join them or die, just because of your father, let alone your mother? Now considerably calmer, Naruto saw the logic behind it. Still, he was kind of pissed. Well, they thought I was mature enough to live alone, didn't they? That I'd reached the point where I could take care of myself, at 4, somehow. Why couldn't I just know about my parents? No one else had to be told, but everyone has the right to know about their own parents. Thinking about it, the Kyuubi couldn't really think of a rebuttal for that. Well, I can't really say no to that. Is there anything else you want to know? Thinking for a few seconds, he asked a question that has been in the back of his mind for the entire conversation. Are you a boy or a girl? Smirking while thinking of his response, the Kyuubi decided to answer him without words. Glowing a deep red which forced Naruto to look away, Kyuubi changed into a more human form. Isn't it a bit easier to show you, Naru-chan? In the spot where there was once a 40-story red fox, there stood a woman, no a goddess. One that Naruto could do nothing but gawk at. She had a slender figure and was rather tall. From bottom to top, she had no imperfections. Toned legs that showed power without being overly muscled. Plump ass, toned midsection. For her build, her were rather large, but not overly so. Her arms matched her legs and her face was one to go with such as perfect body. Flowing down the entirety of her body was smooth, silver hair. A.N. Search Elena from Gun X Clover and you have my character model for her. I am bad at character descriptions anyway. Oh, and did I mention butt naked? Well, tack that onto the list too, because there wasn't the barest hint of clothing on her. Enjoying the view? In response, Naruto could only nod. He had seen rather attractive women before, he lived next to a rather successful whorehouse actually, but this was different. The first thing that came to mind when he saw her, even as naked as she was beautiful, not why. That's not to say she wasn't. For the moment Naruto registered that she was naked, he began to blush up a storm. Laughing at his expense, the Kyuubi said one thing that snapped him out of his stupor. By the way, my name is Kogo. It's rather demeaning to have a name based on the amount of appendages you have. It's like deciding your name is Nihanashi because you have legs and there are 2 of them. Getting his blush mostly under control, Naruto nodded in agreement but decided to make one request. Can you please put some clothes on? Putting her hand on her chin in pretend thought, she said, Should I? Sweat dropping at the answer he knew was coming, he just sighed and let her say it. Nah, I don't feel like it. Clothes make me feel so restricted. Now, let's get to talking about your training. Now he was thoroughly confused and decided to voice it. Training? What training? Rolling her eyes, she decided to explain the conclusion that was obvious to her. I said that you would be strong enough to be able to actually use the information I'll give you about your mom, and I meant it. So, naturally, I will make sure that you are ready. Besides, now you need to be able to escape from the Anbu that'll chase you if you get spotted. Really? Would I lie to you? Seeing him beginning to respond, she quickly cut him off. Don't answer that. Moving on, we will have to talk about this when you get home, but for now, I think the old lady is getting worried she killed you from a heart attack instead of a kunai. Even though time passes slower in here, we've been in here for hours. When you want to come back, just try to meditate when you're sleepy. I'll guide your consciousness back here. Rather confused at the turn of events, he just nodded. Kogo reached through the bars and flicked him in the head, causing him to flinch and fall back. Real world. When he opened his eyes, he was laying on the floor of his Ba-chan's office. Seeing her doing some paperwork, the first thing his mind went to was vengeance. He tried to sneak up on her and get some payback. Before getting within a foot of her, she turned to him and said, "Have a nice nap?" Stumbling back in shock, he sent a small glare at her before remembering the question first on his mind when all of this started. Deciding to give voice to his curiosity, he asked, "Were you ever a ninja, Ba-chan?" Feeling as though this was a good chance to see what point his deduction skills were at, she responded. "What gave you that impression?" "Well, you threw a kunai at me before He started, pausing and looking away for a second. I'm not sure if I should tell her about Kogo-chan. Coming to a quick decision, he chose not to say anything about Kogo. Passed out. Thinking the pause was from embarrassment, she nodded at his assessment. I was a ninja, an Anbu captain actually. Ignoring the wide eyes of her worker and surrogate grandson, she continued. I'm glad you could tell so easily. This means that you're going to be easier to train than I thought. Ears perking up at the mention of more training, Naruto looked back up at Hitatsu. Seeing his confused look, she gave him a smirk, an evil glint in her eyes. You will technically be part of something illegal here. You'll need to learn how to travel undetected, how to be invisible to even the Anbu. You may already be able to outrun them, but that's only because you have unpredictability and youth. No, not that youth. At least not yet. On your side. Gaining a more serious look, she continued. You won't have the luxury of getting caught all the time. While the standards for Anbu have lowered drastically since my time, they are still ninja. If you get caught, you could possibly die. I won't even mention the police force, as they all hate you anyway. You get caught by them, you will die. With the gravity of his situation finally sinking in, he nodded before responding. Well, what do I need to do? Smiling at his agreement, she went on. You are already stealthy enough to hide from Chunin naturally. I've seen you hide from an occasional Jonin, but they eventually catch on to where you are. I won't even go into what an Anbu could do to find you, but do you know why the Jonin can find you with relative ease? Shaking his head, he listened intently. It's because you have too much chakra without enough control. You're a 4-year-old with as much chakra as a somewhat experienced Chunin. To those sensitive to chakra, you're a beacon. Most, if not all Jonin are able to detect chakra sources above civilian. So, now that you know your problem, it's time to fix it. Nodding his head, Naruto couldn't help the shiver that went up his spine. Welcome to hell, Naruto-kun, Kyuubi chimed in, scaring him, though he has gotten used to the scares as the day went on. Only flinching slightly this time, Naruto focused on Hitatsu with a determined look, only to get scared again as she unknowingly echoed Kogo. Welcome to hell, Naruto-kun. You'll thank me for this later. Closing his eyes, he could only think, I am so fucked, before Hitatsu grabbed him by the shoulder and shunshined to her basement training area. Feeling dizzy at his first time doing it, he fell to his knees. We'll get started immediately, Naruto-kun. They've told me that the first job they could trust you with is in a month, so suck it up. We have training to do. Flashback no Justu. Kai. Having Kogo's voice sound in his head snapped him out of his reminiscing trance. You're about to miss your turn, Naruto-kun. Seeing that he had made his way to the 14th manhole cover in the tunnel he was in, he took a look at the map he had drawn on the wall there to make sure he doesn't forget his way. You know, you could just come in here and look at your memories if you want the map, right? Nodding his head, he responded. Yes, but I don't want to be too reliant on it. If anything happens, like a concussion, then I could lose the sewer pathways I've worked so hard to map out. This shit is complicated, you know. Continuing on his way, he made his designated location. Popping out in an alleyway near the Yakuza headquarters in his neighborhood, he jumped to the roof and activated his concealment jutsu. Akuma no Genso. Nis Gaiken. Demon illusion. False appearance. Choosing to appear as his alter ego, which he has so nicely code-named Heiso, delivery, A.N. For a good description, Google. Young Walter C. Dornez. He stepped back a few feet, ran, then jumped across the crowded streets to the roof of his target building. Dropping down to a balcony, he went to channel C. Kakra into a lock seal on the window before it swung open. The two Yakuza members who opened it gestured for him to come in, one of them saying, the boss was waiting. Gulping at the thought of keeping his boss waiting, he walked into the hallway the balcony lead into. Making his way to the office, he pondered how he was going so fast. Oi, Kogo-chan, do you know why I was able to stay so far ahead in a straight chase for so long? Hitatsu Ba-chan already told me that I am naturally fast, but they were fully trained ninja. Glad that her container finally noticed the effects of his chakra-controlled training, Kogo responded. Well, channeling chakra has become second nature to you after all the chakra control exercises you've done. You can channel it to different body parts of your body to make them hit harder, move faster, and adhere to surfaces better. You already knew about the last part, but now that you've figured it out, you can surprise your Ba-chan when you train. I can also start teaching you some more advanced things now that you are so in tune with your own normal energy. That's for later though, you're here. Somewhat miffed that he wasn't told that he could do that earlier, he returned his attention to the door in front of him. Opening it, he walked in and saw his boss sitting there with two guards on either side of the room. They just stared at each other for a few seconds. He was wearing a white suit with a black shirt open slightly at the top. His black, slicked back hair reflected the sun and his tattoos were visible under his shirt which was open at the top, showing the gold chain he wore around his neck. His hand was under his chin, and he was facing Naruto, though he couldn't tell if the man was looking at him due to the pitch-black sunglasses he was wearing. Smirking in false confidence, Naruto decided to start off the conversation. My mission was successful, Shido-sama, he said as he opened the bag which contained 3 scrolls. Though I feel the police force will station more ninja there when the traders arrive again in October. I'd recommend thinking of another method for getting your next shipment into the village. Maybe even the one after that, just to be safe. At that point, Kogo decided to get in her 2 cents. Well, Naruto-kun, you have to admit that posing a fake robbery on some unsuspecting merchants is a very effective plan. Yes, but Konoha really doesn't like it when things don't go their way. I'm sure he has a backup method anyway. After pausing to answer Kogo, he focused on Shido again, only to find him unsealing the delivery himself. Finding more scrolls inside then, Shido looked at their labels before resealing them and throwing them at one of his guards. Store that, and make sure it's all there before you record it. After that, you can go on break. The guard nodded, leaving the room. Shido then looked back at Naruto. I expected them to begin to crack down on that for a bit anyway. We have stocked up pretty well already. For now, I have a different job for you, but I just need you to answer one question. Here he paused, hooking his hands in front of his face, making Naruto feel a bit nervous. Then, he dropped a bombshell. Will you be able to stomach dealing with human trafficking? Eyes widening, he could only think, oh shit. Before his serious side came out to play. Wiping any emotion from his face and going into what he called, Anbu mode, he replied. Of course. After discussing the terms with his boss and his boss, Hitatsu and Shido respectively, Naruto went back into an alley before deactivating his jutsu and heading home. On the way, he decided to train on his roof until it was time to train with Hitatsu. Now, his building was rather empty, only 2 other people actually lived there, and they were both old and seemed to be near their end. Naruto had most of the building to himself, at the moment. After reaching his apartment, he decided to try out using his chakra to do things. Attempting to do focused chakra into his legs knowingly this time, he focused for a second before jumping. He got the effect he wanted, and then some. He went flying above his roof and landed in the middle, on his face. Note to self. Practice using chakra on limbs. And practice landing that jump. In his head, he could hear Kogo laughing at him. Yeah, laugh it up, just get it out. Whenever you are ready to get started, I'll know by the silence in my head. Making the most of his time, Naruto started warming up by doing some laps around his roof. 5 minutes and 20 laps later, he noticed an odd silence. You done yet, Kogo-chan? I think so. Hee. Hearing a few chuckles still escape her, Naruto gained a tick mark on his forehead. Now, there's no need to get angry. I know that you may not have found it so funny, but I found it hilarious. Naruto could feel her trying not to laugh at this point. Your ass was sticking up in the air and everything. Just as he was about to get mad at her starting to laugh again, he noticed what she said. How did you see that? I thought you could only see what I see. Nodding at her container, though he couldn't see it, she responded. Well, it's a somewhat long explanation, so I think you should come into your mind for this one. You didn't visit last night anyway. I kinda missed your company at night, you know. Blushing slightly at where his mind went, he sat down in a lotus position and meditated. At this point, he could enter his own mind without assistance. Mindscape. Appearing in the house Kogo had made in his mind, he called out, Oi Kogo. Where are you? He got his answer in the form of a furry, red tail brushing under his nose before disappearing in a small burst of Yuki. Turning his head, he saw Kogo sitting in her couch upside down, with her legs where her head should be, and her head where her legs should be. Her arm was outstretched and a wisp of Yuki came off of it before she pulled it back in. There you are, Naru-chan, was all the warning he got before his head was shoved between her tits, as per usual for him. Pulling back, she looked at him with a small, fake glare. One day, and you already forgot the rules of my house? Her glare disappeared and her eyes took on a mischievous look. No clothes inside, Naruto-kun. Now either you fix it. At this point, her smile changed to one to match the look she was giving him. Or I do. Finally blushing, he thought about it and his clothes were gone, revealing a body that had obviously gone through rigorous training. Even at 5, one could see the developing muscles covering his body. Happy now? Very. Now, onto training. Walking out of her house in his mind, they made their way to the backyard, though forest would be a better description. Concentrating for a second, Kogo made a clearing open up and multiple different obstacle courses appear before she told him one word. Sit. Grumbling at being treated like a dog, he did as he was told. She had made it clear from day one that he was to follow orders or end up training until he was unconscious and then training some more. Now, what I'm going to teach you will require you to know some things. And those things will make you want to know other things. This may take a while, so get comfortable. Here, she took a seat in front of him, crossing her legs and, accidentally, exposing her crotch, causing him to blush slightly and attempt to lock his eyes with hers. Seeing his reaction, she couldn't help but smirk, before settling her face into a more serious look and sighing. Feeling like she was ready for a long explanation, she began. All-tailed beast draw power from something in nature. Shukaku, the Ichibi, has sand, Matabi, the Nibi, has fire, Isobu, the Sanbi, has water, etc. I am different from the others, though. I draw power from nature as a whole. Anything in nature allows me to regain any used energy, though I do prefer fire, by a lot. Regardless, that's what makes me the strongest. I have a theoretically infinite supply of power. If I were to fight any of the others, even in their element, I'd probably win. At the very least, I haven't lost yet, and I've fought each of them at least once. From this, Naruto went a little wide-eyed. Then, his surprise changed to confusion when he recalled part of what she was explaining. Natural energy? Hearing this, she decided to elaborate. Think of it this way. The world is alive in its own way, and, as you know, every living thing has its own chakra, in some way or form. Well, since it's not as if the world is having a shortage, I use my abilities to refill and increase my admittedly monstrous reserves of energy. Seeing his confusion disappear, she continued. But my power is over natural energy itself. I can do more with it than get a quick recharge. I can use it as an extension of myself. I can make my techniques form on things outside of my visible range. I can even move around within my range as I please, with enough control. The distance for all of this is proportionate to the amount of chakra I have, but I have no shortage, and if I did manage to run out, somehow, I could just stop for a quick refill. Gawking at how overpowered that ability was, Naruto could only stare at her in amazement. Then, a thought occurred to him. How in the fuck did you manage to lose to Konoha? Couldn't you just have used that Bijudama technique you told me about from a distance? Deciding that it was a question worth answering, she did exactly that. Well, I think that you are going to be strong enough to be able to use the information within the next few years, and you're already on a good path, so I'll give you this much. I was being controlled by a person with the Mangekyo Sharingan. I know that you haven't learned about this form of the Sharingan from Hitatsu, and I doubt she even knows of it, so I'll elaborate. The Mangekyo Sharingan is an advanced form beyond the final stage of the Sharingan Hitatsu already taught you about. Everything about it is increased. Its tracking abilities, the detail of the chakra it can see, its genjutsu. As she explained, she stressed the last part, seeing if he would get it. A look of understanding crossed Naruto's face at that point. You were under a genjutsu from the Mangekyo that caused you to go on a rampage, right? Smirking at her container, she answered, close, but no cigar. I was actually controlled. Pretty close, but if I was in control, even in a rampaging state, and I don't mean to be, there wouldn't even be rubble left where Konoha currently stands. Regardless, the person claimed to be Madara, but I would remember that fucker's chakra. The guy who did it was nowhere near his level. Noticing that they'd strayed from the original topic by a lot, she decided to get back on track. She already had a lot to say. I'll tell you more about it later, but the point is, you've gotten certain abilities from me, and I don't want any of them to go to waste. When you were in your mother's womb, and even before, my presence made certain changes happen. For one, you have your own pool of Yuki to tap into, though it's inactive at the moment. Activating that is one of the goals for today, along with getting you to use my control over natural energy, if even just to sense your surroundings. Also, as an Uzumaki, you have the ability to form your chakra into solid constructs, at least from what I learned during my time with Kushina. Naruto wasn't sure which he was more amazing. The fact that he had Yuki, the fact he'd be able to use this natural energy, or the fact that he could make his chakra solid. All went against what he knew, or at least thought he did. Okay, I have 2 questions. Now it was Kogo's turn to be surprised. Only 2? My Naru-kun is so smart. Ignoring the interruption to avoid embarrassment, he continued. 1. How can I make my chakra solid? And 2. How do I have Yuki? Does that mean I'm a demon? Well, to answer your questions in order, the Uzumaki were infamous for their long lives and strong life forces. That came from their extremely potent chakra. Now, seeing his head tilted to the side in confusion, she sighed. Fine, I'll explain this too. Ninjins die because of something they all suffer from in their later years, chakra decay. This is the weakening of their chakra's potency. Their bodies can't run on it anymore and, eventually, give out. Nodding, Naruto filed away the fact that he wasn't included when she referred to ninjins. Now, an Uzumaki's chakra is strong enough to fight off chakra decay for an extended period of time. None have ever achieved immortality, to my knowledge, but a few have lived for hundreds of years. Now, back to your original question. If what I just said was any indication to you, Uzumaki chakra is extremely potent. Now think about it, the seal is continuously trying to drain my Yuki into you, though your Yondaime didn't know about my ability to restore it, so it's draining at a continuously increasing amount. The older you get, the faster it'll drain, until you reach your peak condition. Now, you have purified Yuki, which is already many times more potent than human chakra, draining into your own chakra pool, combined with your naturally potent chakra. You could, in theory, create living things out of your chakra. Seeing the look of awe on his face, she continued, nodding seriously. I see that you finally understand the gravity of your situation. That's not even the end of it. Since your mother had me sealed within her when you were being made, she started, causing Naruto to blush at the implications. My Yuki was mingling within your still developing chakra system, both increasing your normal chakra's potency and giving you your own Yuki. If your father had been a Jinchuriki, there would have been a large chance for you to be born as a demon. As it is, you aren't completely human, being a Jinchuriki, but any human could become something more, be it a demon, an angel, a deity, even a goddamn vampire. The only thing a human can't become is a true god. And if they have permission from the higher-ups, it can happen too. You, on the other hand, were born as an in-between, a half-breed, if you will. As your seal continues to attempt to drain me, you will probably ascend into demonhood, or descend, if you will. At the very least, you'll be immortal unless killed. Now Naruto, understandably, had mixed feelings about this. On one hand, he would just keep getting stronger, possibly becoming immortal. On the other hand, he'd be proving the villagers right when they whispered things like, demon, and monster, in his presence. As if she could read his mind, she put a hand on his shoulder soothingly, before pulling him into a hug, reminding him of their current state of dress. Don't worry about what the assholes in this village say. When humans don't understand something that has power, they will automatically fear it. That fear will turn to hatred. Here, she pulled away, and humans have a notoriously bad record with dealing with hatred. You know how it goes. I'm sorry. She then bowed to him. Now Naruto was confused. How is it your fault? From what I get, this village has been sealing you since the Shoden Hokage's time. If anything, it's my father's fault for creating me as I am then leaving me with those whose mission in life is hating me. I'm sure he knew what would happen. Blinking in surprise at his level of maturity, she asked him something. You are 5, right? Of course I'm 5. Nodding, she got up. I was just making sure. Now, I think we've talked more than enough, it's time to train. Since you don't have anywhere near as much Yuki or the proportionate amount chakra to what I have yet, you'll just be training in letting your chakra saturate your surroundings first. Then you'll focus on feeling what your chakra is encompassing. Then you'll be doing it while running through one of the obstacle courses. You can probably do the first 2 with ease, due to your chakra control at this point. Now, get to it. I'm taking a nap. Tell me when you want to try a course. Scrambling to his feet, he concentrated on bringing his chakra out. Once he got a feel for it, he pushed it out of his body, letting it leak into and mix with his surroundings. Soon, it leaked into the air and the earth. Opening his eyes, he looked over to Kogo. Is this right? When she nodded, he decided to get used to bringing his chakra out instead of just moving on. After 20 minutes or so, he felt that he had the hang of it. Deciding to make this an actual training session, he performed the best jutsu that Hitatsu had taught him so far, and his personal favorite. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Making a few copies of him, he ordered them to move around him in a random pattern. As they did their jobs, he went back to doing the first exercise while they moved. Slowly, he began to build a fuzzy picture of his surroundings in his mind. He felt the chakra in his clones as they moved. The longer he did it, the more defined their shapes became in his mind's eye. Spending an hour or so doing this on and off, he built up speed forming a picture of his surroundings. Not enough to use in an intense battle, but enough for it to be usable. After feeling like he had learned it to a satisfactory degree on his own, he summoned 20 more clones, splitting them into groups of 5. One clone would be in the middle while the others would dash around him. After an hour or so more of doing things in his mind, though it has only been about a few minutes in the real world, he decided to up the ante. Sending a mental command out for the clone in the middle to dispel and taking in the info, he told his clones to gather while summoning up 20 more. Now, in groups of 4, one of you will sit in the middle while the other 3 dash at you. The one in the middle has to dodge the incoming attacks. When the one in the middle feels like he has gotten good at it, or he is hit and dispelled, he will give us all the experience and one of you will take their place. Knowing that he'll suck at this in the beginning and not wanting to stop and create more clones every 2 seconds, he made about 60 more clones. Feeling a bit tired, he stopped to catch his breath while sorting through the memories his clones were giving him. When he felt recovered 5 minutes later, he felt as though he could probably dodge with decent proficiency. Wow, he muttered, shadow clones are cheap as hell. He trailed off before smiling deviously. I love it. Looking up at his group of clones who started without him, he sent a mental command for them to come at him. Closing his eyes, he got into a ready stance. He felt them circling him, and the one directly in his normal blind spot rushing him. Smirking, he dodged to the side, only to feel one coming in from his left and another jumping at him. Moving forward under the one that jumped and simultaneously dodging the one approaching from his left. He then spun, pushing the fist of the one on his right away, before back-flipping over one that came from behind. Getting better with every dodge, combined with the shadow clones feeding him extra experience every once in a while, Naruto soon felt as though he could tackle Kogo's obstacle courses, or at least the first one. I don't want to get here. For all I know, she put a trap underground, or she just wants me to notice and react to every little thing. Time to find out, I guess. Walking up to Kogo with his eyes still closed, he asked her if she thought he was ready for an obstacle course yet. Obviously, she said, yes, but you may want pants for the course. Any of them. Oh, and a blindfold so you don't peek. Nodding in consent and mild joy, he gave himself pants and a blindfold. He poofed the pants directly on, which he could do, this being their shared mindscape. Going up to the course, he put on the blindfold, but not before noting that Kogo came to watch him do this, a mischievous smirk on her face. Putting the blindfold on, he decided to comment on it. I feel like this will suck. A lot. 2 mindscape hours later. Falling to the floor in a heap, Naruto laid there for a while, panting, before glaring up at Kogo. Okay, I'm fucking done. Dual walls of Senbon flying at me faster than I'd be able to see normally, at least 5 swinging trunks, and poles that pop out of the ground at random intervals trying to make me just a bit more feminine. I'm surprised there wasn't a fucking boulder to fall on me and tiles on the floor that started moving sporadically as lava slowly poured down from walls that rise and fall at random intervals. Giggling a bit at his suffering, she decided to give him a piece of information. If it makes you feel any better, you just predicted the first half of the next one perfectly. Now you can prepare yourself mentally. Hearing him groaning at this, she decided to cut him some slack. Okay, how about I just activate your Yuki and we call it a day? Tomorrow, we'll work on making your chakra solid. As he picked himself up, she grabbed his hand and pulled him up. As he was about to say thank you, she began to channel her Yuki directly into his system. Clenching his teeth, he stopped himself from crying out in pain. Eventually, she stopped and before he could yell at her, she leaned forward and kissed him on the forehead, sending him out of his mind and into the real world again. Real world. Blinking rapidly, Naruto took a moment to let the last few seconds register for him. When they finally did, he started blushing up a storm. Trying to get his mind off of it, he chose to do some more training. Looking up, he saw that it was still early in the afternoon, maybe around 4. Getting up and stretching, he pondered what to train. Well, since I just got my Yuki, my control over it probably sucks. Welp, time for clones. I feel like I'm cheating in some way, but I can't bring myself to care. Shrugging his shoulders, he was about to make some clones when Kogo decided to say something. You should make as many with chakra as you can, then try your Yuki. It'll be a good experience for you, and your normal reserves will probably be refilled faster. Not sure, but it's worth a shot. Nodding at her logic, he did just that. Making the maximum amount of clones he could in one go and noticing with some surprise that the number was higher than before, he asked Kogo one thing. Now, how'd I actually use it? He could feel her face palming inside his head. Hey, I'm new to this, okay. I know. And it's kinda my fault for expecting you to just know how to do it. Now, here, she was cut off by Naruto. Let me just check on my clones for a sec. I feel like they are trying to figure it out right now, and if one of them figured it out, it could save you the explanation. Looking up at his clones, he was about to call out to the group to ask whether any of them knew what they were doing when one of the clones began to gain an outline. The other clones looked where he was to see the clone glowing an ominous, flame-like, black aura before being covered in it. A.N. Think Ichigo's incomplete fullbrain, but don't worry, he won't get it. Maybe an ability or two though. That only lasted a second, however, as he was quickly revealed, holding the ram sign, as someone who wasn't Naruto and yet was. His hair had tuned black and fell down his head smoothly instead of spiking up as per usual, and his skin seemed paler. The clone had actually grown about 2 inches, and his eyes were glowing ominously as he looked at himself. Holy shit, he looks just like Heiso. Looking up, the only thing the clone said was, whoa. All of the gawking Narutos nodded in agreement. That described it better than any scholar could. Snapping out of his shock, the original dispelled the successful clone and, as the memories went to all of them, he ordered them to begin practicing. As they did their job, he asked Kogo something. Kogo-chan? Yes, Naruto-kun? Why in the fuck did you not say anything about that? Hearing her laughing but offering no response, he just sighed, blocked her out, and decided to try and do it himself. Okay, so he was able to draw on it as he was getting angry at his lack of success. So I guess it's connected to my emotions. Clearing his mind, he brought up any negative experiences he's been through. Not that I have a lack of those. He thought a bit bitterly, getting rather angry as he remembered his life to this point. Who are they to decide who and what I am? My existence is my own to define however I wish, as whatever I wish, he thought as he remembered the scalding whispers of monster and demon, along with the occasional attempts on his life. I've walked through the village as Heiso and they are all smiles. They treat a possibly lethal stranger better than they treat a 5-year-old who has lived among them and done nothing wrong his entire life. They each hold enough hate to suffocate Tsuchi no Kuni, yet I'm the one treated like a monster. At this point, Kogo was shocked. How the hell does he have so much? I know the seal has been working for 5 years, but his Yuki has only been increasing secondhand, in proportion to his chakra. Shit, if gives off too much, Anbu will sense it and assume that I'm trying to escape. Naruto, stop. If the Anbu find you training, they'll alert the Hokage, or maybe even kill you outright. Seeing that her words weren't doing anything to abate the flow, she tried a different approach. Naruto, think of Tsuchi and his daughter, Ayame. They were always kind to you, even when your presence hurt business for them. Not everyone is blind in this village, and you know it. At this, Naruto's anger started to recede before ceasing completely. Thanks Kogo-chan. I needed the assist there. He could hear her huffing in his head. Damn right you did. It's a good thing that no active ninjas live in this part of the village, else you'd be knee-deep in shit. Apparently, we need to think of a way to let draw on it without going on a rampage. Actually, I got it. Wait for your clones to gain a good handle on controlling smaller amounts first. You aren't ready to go further. Hanging his head in shame at his lack of control, he nodded. Sighing, he decided to go on a walk. He finally noticed a somewhat large influx of information coming at him. Looking over to his clones, he saw that about half of them were still standing, while others seemed to be fighting for control of themselves. Narrowing his eyes, he gave an order. If any clones lose control, I want them dispelled. I don't want a single person to know about this, so he can't have any rampaging clones. Just for good measure, he made 20 more clones. These guys will be responsible for taking care of those who go out of control. Now, get to it. A resounding "hi" swept through the clones as they resumed training. 1 hour later, as Naruto was making his way through the park, he heard someone sniffling among the sound of laughter. I'm not sure if I should bother, Kogo-chan. It could just stir up some more trouble for me. Why don't you just find out if it's worth your time for yourself? I can't really say. My sensing range only extends as far as your own maximum while I'm stuck in here. Looking around, he saw that there was barely anyone in the park at the moment. Deciding it was fine if he checked it out, he jumped into the trees and stealthily made his way to the sounds. What he saw made him a bit angry. 3 boys, each seeming to be about 12, were harassing a girl around his age for whatever reason. Trying out more of the perks for his chakra control, he tried channeling a little to his ears. Though the influx of sound overwhelmed him at first, he managed to focus on their voices. What he heard made him much angrier, though he quickly reined in his anger. Ha, you must think you're better than us, you Hyuga prick. You're all so stuck up, always acting so high and mighty. It makes me sick. Then another chimed in, why don't you try bowing to us for once, huh? He finally heard the girl's voice, though just barely due to how soft it was. But father s said n not to be bo tite anyone else. We don't give a shit about what your father said, the third boy began. We told you to bow, bitch. As he was saying this, he took out a kunai. Shit, they're in the academy. This makes what I'm about to do a bit more difficult, but from what Hitatsu Obaa-chan told me, they've dropped the academy standards by a lot. Sighing, he jumped down, grabbing the third boy's hand as he was about to put the kunai's tip to her face. You know, attacking a member of any Konoha clan, let alone a member of the Hyuga's main family, can be enough to warrant jail time. You're lucky you're still minors, but that'll change when you graduate in 6 months. I can keep a secret till December. Those words were enough to make them worry, but the next thing he said was the real killer. But I doubt she can. Paling at his words, knowing they were true from their final year classes, they began to panic a bit, though they tried not to let it show. Well, whatever, the one with the kunai said, trying to pull his hand from Naruto's grip, you won't get the chance to tell anybody. As he said this, he ripped his hand out and thrust the kunai at Naruto's head. Scoffing at how slow he was moving, he grabbed the boy's hand and, channeling chakra to make sure it was brutal, casually broke the boy's wrist. A resounding snap was heard by both the now frightened Hyuga girl and both remaining boys. Grabbing the boy whose wrist he was still holding by the shoulder, though he had to reach up to do it, he threw him into one of the surrounding trees, knocking the boy unconscious. Ya know, Hitatsu Bachin may be a slave driver, but it was really effective. I think that goes without saying. These boys are 6 months from graduating from the academy, and you're just tossing them around. Literally. Mentally nodding in agreement, he focused on the situation he was in again. He turned around, happy to see that the boys were scared, but disappointed to see that the girl he saved was as well. Deciding that he didn't feel like playing around anymore, Naruto rushed the other 2 boys, channeling chakra to his feet. As he seemingly appeared out of nowhere behind them, he got a wave of clone memories, causing him to stop in his tracks. The boys looked around frantically, trying to find where he'd went. Once they found him behind them, they both took out kunai, though they were preparing to run. Grinning at the boys and making them sweat a bit more, he chose to try out his newfound Yuki control. Building up a small amount Yuki in his feet and channeling some to his eyes, going for the glowing effect, he told them something that gave them some hope. You have 5 seconds to get out of my sight. As he said this, he put up 5 fingers and began counting down aloud. 5. The boys glanced at each other then their downed friend, before they ran towards him. 4. Naruto closed his eyes and extended his chakra as they ran back in the direction of the park's path, directly behind him. 3. One of them, the one with the body of his friend over his shoulder, tripped, sending his unconscious friend into the boy in front of him, sending them all to the floor. 2. Scrambling to their feet, they left their friend's body lying there, trying to get away. 1. At this point, Naruto released the slight buildup of Yuki in his feet for one burst of speed. He knew their exact location, due to the technique Kogo had taught him earlier. Looking up at the older boys, he decided to have a little fun. Keeping his eyes supplied with Yuki, he walked towards them, making them stumble back and fall on their asses. Leaning forward, he placed his head between theirs. They were frozen, looking straight at where he appeared in fear. He began to whisper in their ears softly, I can still. As he trailed off, he put his hands on their shoulder before channeling Yuki to his vocal cords, trying to replicate Kogo's voice in her fox form. See you. With that, both boys passed out, a small stain appearing on both of their crotches. As they fell backwards, he walked back to the clearing where the Hyuga girl was still on the ground, staring at where they went in fear, her Byakugan on. Naruto, on the other hand, was laughing his ass off, and he could hear Kogo doing the same. Ha ha ha, oh my god, did you see his face? Ha ha ha, he was all like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. That was fucking amazing Naru-kun. As they both caught their breath, Naruto turned his attention back to the girl who seemed to be looking at him in fear. Trying to calm her down, he chose his words carefully. Don't worry, if we're here to hurt you, I would have just joined in with those douches. He gave her a small smile before continuing. So, my name's Uzumaki Naruto. What's yours? Finally accepting that he didn't want to hurt her, she got up off the ground before bowing to him. Hinata. Hyuga Hinata. Arigato, Naruto-san. She stopped when she felt a hand on her shoulder. Just Naruto is fine. Hearing san at the end of my name still feels weird. Nodding in acceptance, she was about to correct herself when they both heard a different voice. Hinata-sama, where are you, Hinata-sama? The voice got closer and Naruto could sense a large chakra entering the clearing. Asking Hinata something quickly, he pulled her off to the side. Do you know that person, Hinata? Getting a nod and a somewhat sad look as a response, he asked a follow-up question. Do you want to go to them? Getting a slightly reluctant shake of the head as a response, he made up his mind. Okay then, we're going to have some fun. He said this before grabbing her in a bridal style and, using a burst of his continuously better controlled Yuki, blurred out of their business district outskirts. Finally coming to a stop on the roof of his favorite ramen place, he jumped onto the street and put her down. Swaying on her feet for a moment, she grabbed Naruto's shoulder to stop herself from falling. Scratching his head in mild embarrassment, he apologized. Sorry about that, he began, his eyes twinkling mischievously. I'll give you a warning before going so fast next time. Now, it was Hinata's turn to blush. She may only have been 5, but she'd learned enough by spending time around drunken branch members to know what he was talking about. Burying her face in her hands, she turned away. Chuckling, Naruto went around her and pulled her hands away from her face. Stopping his laughter, he apologized. Gomen, it's just that. As he trailed off, his eyes got somewhat sad. I've never really had many friends to mess with before. I just wanted to get the most out of this. Here, Hinata looked at him in a confused manner. Elaborating, he continued, I'm an orphan you see. But the people at the orphanage were against me for stupid reasons. Since they'd tried beating me twice and I didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me all depressed, they denied me any social contact with the other kids. Seeing her shocked and pitying look, his eyes hardened. Don't go feeling sorry for me now, I hate that stuff. Let's just have some fun. Pushing the curtains of the ramen stand open, he walked in, asking her a question of the utmost importance. So, have you ever had ramen before, Hinata-chan? She shook her head and he froze. At that exact moment, Tucci, the owner of Ichiraku's, noticed him. Hey Naruto. His greeting was cut off abruptly as Naruto blurred in front of the counter, barking an order at him. Oi, Tucci Ojii-san. We have an emergency. Ramen deficiency, code red. I need a bowl of miso, ASAP. Nodding his head gravely, he whipped up a fresh batch of miso ramen as quickly as he possibly could. While this was happening, Naruto gestured for her to take a seat next to him. How the hell have you not had ramen before? Squirming in her seat at his intense gaze, she responded, well, Samadi doesn't let me have much of anything unhealthy. Recoiling in shock at the last part of her response, he passionately responded. How is ramen unhealthy? It's. He trailed off, thinking of the best way to say what he wanted. Snapping his fingers, he continued. It's absolutely divine. A gift from the gods, to mortals who are lucky enough to understand its greatness. It's so good that people could die from it. Mere mortals aren't supposed to deign in the realm of the gods. We are lucky to have this taste of heaven, and all should enjoy it to the fullest. He finished with fire in his eyes that made her almost believe him. Almost. I suppose I could give it a try. Smiling in triumph, he put his arm around her shoulder. That's the spirit, Hinata-chan. Here, she began to blush. The only people to ever hug her, hell to even touch her, were her uncle Hizashi, her Tusama, her cousin Neji, and her Ka-san. And now Naruto. Is this what it's like to have friends? She thought to herself. At this point, Tucci came out with 2 bowls of ramen in his hand. Here you go, little lady. You too, Naruto. I figured you'd want your normal shoyu ramen, even if you didn't order one. Embarrassed that he forgot to order his own ramen, he thanked Tucci before saying one thing. Itadakimasu. With that out of the way, he began to eat. Deciding to give a good first impression, he decided to employ the manners he learned from Hitatsu. Beginning to eat at a still relatively fast pace, he looked over at Hinata to see her about to take a taste. Her first taste of ramen. He stopped and looked at her with intense eyes that made Kogo laugh. Oh my, Naruto-kun. You seem to love staring at this girl. Have I been replaced? He forced down the blush coming from her words and focused on Hinata. She put the chopsticks to her mouth slowly, agonizingly slowly to Naruto. He could hear his heartbeat in his own ears as he waited. 2 agonizing seconds later, her face brightened. Naruto sighed in relief, his ramen had come through. Moving on to his own, he ate in contentment. Deciding that he didn't like silence that had come over them, he broke it. Finishing his current slurp, he asked, so, what's it like being in a clan like the Hyuga? Hinata stiffened at the question, but answered anyway. Finishing her slurp, she gathered her courage, which she's found easier since they met, and answered, well, could be better. We have so many people there, but I feel so alone. My uncle, Hizashi Oji, is nice enough, but he has a son. My cousin, Neji Ni, used to be very nice to me, but a year or so ago, he began to get very distant. My T2-sama and Ka-san are pretty good to me, but Tu-san has been cruel in training me recently, since I'm the heir of the C clan. And my Ka-san had my baby sister, Hanabi, 3 months ago, so she hasn't been able to do much. I know she cares, but Hanabi T takes up most of her time. The rest of the clan is polite, but they're as warm as a block of ice. Naruto nodded in understanding. He'd met his fair share of cold people, and they weren't very pleasant to deal with. Well, cherish your family while you can. You never know what could happen, you know? Plus, you could just train with me outside of your training sessions with your Tu-san. My sensei has been teaching me pretty well, so I could probably help. At this Hinata nodded happily before replying. I go on a walk pretty oft. She was cut off as someone tapped on Naruto's shoulder. They both turned around to see Hitatsu standing there with a small smile. Oh, hi Hitatsu Ba-chan. Nodding at him, she responded in kind before telling him something that made him rather surprised. We won't be training today, Naruto, nor for the rest of the week. I went by your house to let you know, but you weren't there, so I came here. Regardless, I have something to take care of, so training's off for a bit. Nodding in acceptance, he gestured to Hinata, who was beginning to feel a bit awkward. Hitatsu Ba-chan, this is Hinata-chan. Hinata-chan, this is Hitatsu Ba-chan. She's the one I said was training me. Greeting each other, they both turned to Naruto to say something when another person burst in, Byakugan blazing. Hinata-sama, I finally found you. It was Hyuga, Hinata's personal bodyguard. Seeing them staring at him, he went about composing himself and deactivating his dojutsu before he walked over to Hinata. He stopped and gave her a small glare before asking, "What do you think you're doing here, young lady?" Squirming under his gaze, Hinata replied softly, "I was spending tea time with my new friend, Ko-san." As he heard this, Ko's eyes softened and he smiled softly. He knew that she had no real social contact outside of her family and was happy she had made a friend. Well, Hinata-sama, you should have told me first. Also, why were there bodies where I first felt you chakra? And how did you just disappear? Seeing her look to him pleadingly, Naruto sighed before saying, that may have been my fault, Ko-san. Seeing Ko give him a look that said, explain now, or die, he hurried on. 3 boys were giving Hinata-chan trouble. It was just them messing with her before they forced her on her knees and told her to bow. They were insulting her and your clan, though they were probably just jealous. I figured the conflict would have dissipated on its own, but then one of them took out a kunai and was about to put it to her face. At that point, I jumped in and broke the wrist of the boy with the kunai. I just scared the other 2, and they passed out, so they're fine. They might be a bit shaken up, but they all be fine, eventually. Kogo chose this time to chime in. Even if you get in trouble, I say it was totally worth it to see the look on the boy's face. Giving a mental nod in agreement, he turned all of his attention back to Ko, who was looking at him oddly. And how did you disappear? Looking to Hitatsu for confirmation, he got a nod, which was all he needed. Well, Hitatsu Ba-chan here is a retired Anbu and she heard I wanted to be a shinobi. I work for her as a mail courier in the morning and train with her after she's done working. I've been doing that for about a year by now, so I'm pretty good, if I do say so myself. I'd place myself around low chinen in everything but genjutsu and speed. I'm fast enough to outrun an Anbu but not very good at most illusions. Didn't really need them to make a new friend though. At the end, Naruto sent Hinata a small grin. Ko, on the other hand, continued to stare at him. He seemed to come to a decision before saying one thing. I'd like you to come with us, when you are done, of course. Looking to Hitatsu for some sort of confirmation, all he got was a shrug before she said she had to get going and left. Well, Kogo-chan, what do you think? I think you should go, obviously. You need to see that this village isn't all bad, and better sooner than later. Hey, I don't think this village is all bad. I just think it's mostly bad. Most of the people here are monsters in disguise. Even Hitatsu Ba-chan admitted to that. Huffing in his mind, he returned his focus to Ko again and said, sure. I'll just be a second. Quickly finishing his ramen, with Hinata a few seconds behind, he went to pay for it before Ko stopped him. I got this. It's the least I can do. Shrugging, Naruto thanked Tucci for the ramen before going with Ko out of the stand. As they exited, Ko asked Naruto to do something. Would you grab my arm? Oh, how incredibly rude of me. I never got your name. Hinata decided to give a small introduction for both of them. Ko-san, this is my friend Naruto-kun. Naruto-kun, this is my bodyguard Ko-san. Naruto extended his hand upward to Ko, with a polite smile. Nice to meet you Ko-san. But please, just call me Naruto. Naruto-san, feels weird to me, he greeted, which was responded to in kind. Now, Naruto, Ko started, resuming where he left off, grab my hand for a second. Doing just that, he grabbed his hand before they were shunshin ed elsewhere. Hyuga clan compound. As they appeared, Naruto felt the last of his clones dispel, marking the end of his training for the day. Letting go of Ko's hand, he looked around and noticed two things. 1. It was getting rather late, around 8:30 at the moment. And 2. He hadn't seen where they were in a while. Why am I at the Hyuga compound? Ko was surprised that he recognized the area and voiced it, but he didn't like the response he got. 2 years ago, itching powder. Ko felt a random itch pop up when he thought of the incident. Ignoring it and Hinata's confused look, he led both Hinata and Naruto into the compound. The guards looked at him strangely for having Naruto with him and Hinata, but said nothing to him. As he made his way through the compound to Hiashi's office, Naruto was looking around in wonder. Yeah, no, I didn't really get to enjoy the beauty of this place the last time I was here. You couldn't hear me at the time, but I was laughing my ass off when the Hyugas were itching. It was amazing, though I'm surprised you were able to get by their eyes. Well, many of them are fucks, so they wouldn't imagine someone would dare to try and infiltrate their compound. The guards normally have their eyes off, though they did occasional sweeps. Looking around some more, he caught a glimpse of Hinata staring at him, though she turned away the moment he made eye contact. Looks like my Naruto-kun has a secret admirer. His extremely intelligent response was, what? He heard her giggle but offer no response. Giving a mental roll of his eyes, he focused on the real world, taking his body off autopilot just in time to bump into Ko. Ah, Gomen Ko-san. I was kinda distracted for a second. Ko just nodded his head in acceptance before gesturing for Hinata to follow him into the room they'd stopped in front of. As Naruto attempted to follow, Ko stopped him. You'll be called in a moment, Naruto-san. I must discuss something with Hiashi-sama. Stepping into the office with Hinata on his heels, he bowed to Hiashi before addressing him, drawing the Hyuga's attention from the paperwork in front of him. Hiashi-sama, I have returned with Hinata-sama. Nodding, Hiashi commented, you are rather late, Ko-san. I hope you have a good reason. With that, Ko went on to recount what he was told of the events that occurred while Hinata was out of his sight. Once he had finished, Hiashi asked, where were you during all of that, Ko-san? There was a slight edge to his voice, one that made Ko slightly nervous. Despite this, he answered, I was looking for Hinata-sama. We had stopped for a cinnamon bun and she'd slipped away. At this, Hiashi diverted his attention to his daughter who was now finding the floor to be the most interesting thing in the world. Hinata, he started, his tone making it clear he was serious. While I am impressed you were able to escape from a Jonin's view for so long, here. He paused to give Ko a look before continuing. I hope you now see why I'd given you a guard to begin with. Hinata nodded, surprised that her father wasn't scolding her. So, who is the boy that saved you? I'd like to thank him, when next I get the chance. Happy that neither she nor Naruto were in trouble, she answered. His name is Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto. At this, the ever-stoic Hiashi widened his eyes marginally, and he's outside the door. He nodded at the last part. He'd imagined that Ko would bring the boy he had mentioned, and there was a person outside the door, so he assumed that the person outside the door was the boy Ko had mentioned in his tale. He hadn't thought the boy would be the Jinchuriki to the Kyuubi no Yoko and resident pariah of Konoha. Thinking for a moment on his next course of action, he nodded to himself before speaking. I wish to speak with Naruto. Alone. Please send him in and wait outside for a moment. Nodding in compliance with his wishes, Ko stepped out, with Hinata in tow, and told Naruto, Hiashi-sama wishes to speak with you. I advise you remain polite, because one negative comment from him could ruin your life. Deciding he'd said enough, he let Naruto pass, which he did with newfound reluctance. Stepping into the room, he closed the door and locked eyes with Hiyashi, and they just stared for a bit. Naruto was the one to break the silence. When he did, his voice was even and calm, though still held its childlike tone. "Hello, Hiyashi-sama." His childlike voice did nothing to lower the oddly tense atmosphere in the room. "Hello Naruto-san." Hiyashi began before getting up and standing in front of Naruto. Much to Naruto's shock, he bowed before continuing. "Arigato," he said as sincerely as he could. "Domo arigato gozaimashita, a.n. Thank you very much, I believe. I'm not sure what would have happened to my daughter otherwise. Your actions are truly appreciated." As he rose from his bow, he met the gawking stare of Naruto. In the silence that followed, he continued. "I will gladly give you some type of recompense. The Hyuga do not leave a debt unpaid, even under such unfortunate circumstances as yours." Naruto blinked in surprise, his practiced stoic expression falling for a moment. Recovering, he looked him dead in the eyes before responding. "I'm not sure what you're talking about, Hiyashi-sama." Looking somewhat amused, Hiyashi just stared at Naruto for a moment before continuing. "I'm sure you do. No ninja in their right mind would train a container that didn't know of their burden. You're getting instruction from a retired Anbu Black Ops member. Just about every adult knows of your burden, and everyone with the rank of elite Jonin, clan head, and Anbu is required to be well informed about things of such importance. Unfortunately, this puts me in a delicate situation, Uzumaki-san. I'm sure you've been taught by your sensei that you are very valuable to this village, military-wise. If I were to really do anything to you, good or bad, then I'd be put in the spotlight even more than I already am." Nodding his head, Naruto responded, "I understand, Hiyashi-sama. Personally, I don't really require anything. I make enough money for what I want, I am satisfied with my training, and I am happy living where I am, as odd as that may sound." Now it was Hiyashi's turn to be surprised, though it didn't show through his practiced visage of stoicism. Sating his curiosity, he asked, "And where exactly do you live, Uzumaki-san?" Cursing mentally at himself, he answered, albeit with some reluctance, "In the red light district." This time, Hiyashi's surprise did show. His eyes widened noticeably, and his eyebrows rose half an inch, which is a lot for him. Composing himself, he gave his response to that. "I mean no disrespect, Naruto-san, but how are you happy there?" Here, Naruto leaked a bit of anger through his own stoic mask. "Because they treat me better than just about anyone else in the village. They may not like me too much, but they give me the respect of a normal human being. When I walk out the door, the first thing I get isn't a scalding remark like, 'Oh, you woke up today? How unfortunate,' or anything like I get almost anywhere else in this village. They acknowledge my existence and sell me things fairly. As long as I pay for myself like everyone else, I am treated like everyone else, even if I can see that some of them still don't necessarily like me." Having said his piece, he waited for Hiyashi to respond, though he was oddly silent, looking off into space as he was consumed by his own thoughts. He feels more at home in the company of prostitutes and drug dealers than that of a normal merchant or other children. This child knows how cruel people can be, and he has never set foot out of his home village. "Our home village? How far have we fallen, Shodai-sama? He is no different from your wife, and yet, we hate him as if he is what he holds. Minato, I hope you don't kick my ass too hard when I die, for I know I deserve at least something for letting your son suffer this much." Pulling himself out of his thoughts, he focused upon Naruto once more. Steeling his resolve, he prepared to do what his wife would, be nice. Sighing, he finally responded to the child in front of him. "Well, I would feel bad if you received nothing. Would you like to stay the night, at the very least?" Naruto was shocked. Apparently, Hiyashi was as different from a normal Hyuga as his daughter was. Deciding it would be rude to not accept, he did exactly that, and accepted. Bowing, he said, "That would be greatly appreciated, Hiyashi-sama. I am in your care for the night." Kogo chose now to butt in. While he was getting up from the bow, she said, "You know, this is the perfect chance for you to get with that Hyuga girl. Well, that would be taking advantage of her and her family's hospitality. Oh, and we're only fucking 5. Not mentally you aren't. In your mindscape, you pop up as 13 or 14, maybe even 15. I'm sure she's matured a lot too, being groomed to be a clan heir and all." This conversation is over, Kogo-chan. She just laughed at his dismissal. Pulling his attention away from the laughing Biju in his head, he focused on Hiyashi, who was about to continue. Good, good. Well, I'll let you and Hinata play for a while, but she must be in bed by 9, and that's in 20 minutes. You may go to sleep whenever you feel so inclined. Just let me know when you are ready, and I'll have Ko-san show you to your room. I'll probably be in here all night. Again, he said, grumbling the last part, all the while experiencing the expected thoughts. Fucking paperwork. Naruto chuckled and decided to enlighten him. Ya no, there is a very easy solution to paperwork, Hiyashi-sama. At this, Hiyashi snapped his head up, Byakugan blazing in order to detect whether or not he was lying. Continuing on, he said 2 words that made Hiyashi feel really dumb. Cage Bunshin. Hiyashi was very silent for a moment before putting his hands to his face and letting out a very large sigh. Pulling himself out of his stupor, he got up and bowed to Naruto. I owe you 1, no 10, Naruto-sama. I can now actually spend time with my family, and get even more work done than before. You may stay for as long as you wish, and remember, the Hyuga will be on your side for as long as I remain clan head. Naruto gave him a deadpan stare at that. I would have thought he'd have already thought of that and just found some flaw. Wow, well, no reason for looking a gift horse in the mouth. Shaking his head in amusement, Naruto responded, well, I might just take you up on that, Hiyashi-sama. I have been pestering my sensei to learn the Shunshin no Jutsu for a while, so you could teach me that. Nodding his head rapidly, an actual smile on his face, Hiyashi responded passionately. Done. I'll get you a scroll with the instructions tomorrow. Happy at the thought of rubbing it in Hitatsu's face that he'd learnt the jutsu without her, he said, well, Hiyashi-sama, is there anything else of importance? Now Hiyashi thought for a second before his eyes widened. Composing himself, he asked Naruto, what do you know of your parents, Naruto-kun? Ignoring the change in honorifics, Naruto decided to tell the truth, addressing Hiyashi in kind. I know of both of them, Hiyashi-san. Once more, Hiyashi's surprise showed. Regaining his composure for the umpteenth time that night, he nodded and just said, I won't ask how, you're entitled to your secrets. I am glad you trust me enough to tell me, even with the very real danger of me informing Hokage-sama. When he saw Naruto's eyes widen, he chuckled. You didn't even think of that, did you? Oh well, it's not as if it matters anyway. And, thanks to clones, I'll be going to sleep, so just ask Ko-san when you are ready to turn in for the night. Getting up from his desk, he went to the door and opened it to find Hinata chatting with Ko about something he didn't bother to listen in on. Clearing his throat, he got their attention and went on to say, we're done. I'm going to check on my wife before turning in for the night, Ko-san. Keep an eye on them both for me. With that, he away walked from the entrance of his office, revealing a grinning Naruto. Walking out of the office, Naruto put his arm around Hinata before cheering. Woo, sleepover. Hinata smiled at that, giving her own, much softer cheer. Ko just looked on with a small smile. While this was going on, Kogo commented, you are rather open right now. I haven't even seen you smile around anyone other than me, Hitatsu, and the Ichirakus in a long time. Well, I can feel these guys don't want to hurt me. I haven't recalled my chakra since I fought the boys, and, while it's a bit tiring, I can get a general good or bad feeling from people. Now Kogo was surprised. I'd have thought it would have taken you a bit longer to notice that. Why don't you just teach me these things? You wouldn't gain as much if I just told you. Duh. Mentally grumbling about stupid demonesses, he took his body off autopilot and took his hand of Hinata's shoulder. Looking around, he asked, what do you guys have to do around here? At that, Hinata had to think. Well, I never really had much to do. I go on walks through the village with Ko-san pretty often, but I don't do much here but train and tend to the garden with Ka-chan. Furrowing his brow, Naruto thought long and hard before saying, well, I got nothing else to do. How about you show me the garden? At this, he paused, before a devious smile broke out on his face. 50 ryo, A.N. About $4.25 in American money, says I can get there before you. Thinking she had it in the bag, since it was her house, she agreed. Okay, then, Hinata-chan. It's a race. Kogo started laughing in his head at that point. Wow, Naru-kun, you are so mean. There's no way for her to know you already know the layout of this building. That's why it's fun, and I won't actually take the money. I just want to see her face when I get there before her. Ko's voice broke him from his internal conversation. It's rather late, so I'll wait in the garden with a lamp. Make sure you get there, both of you. Nodding, they both went to a doorway and waited for Ko to be out of sight. Giving him a few seconds, they looked at each other before, by unspoken consent, they began to count down. 3, 2, 1, go. They both went off, Naruto slowing himself down so Hinata could keep up in her kimono. Suddenly, Naruto took a left, going down a hallway that she remembered lead to a dead end. Smiling at the fact she'd win, Hinata pushed herself to go faster. Naruto, on the other hand, got to the dead end but opened the window at the end of the pathway and jumped out, going to the roof and heading to the garden in the back. Reaching the end, Naruto dropped down, seemingly falling out of the sky for Ko, who was staring at the entrance to the garden, waiting for them. Jumping at his sudden appearance, he stumbled backwards, though he didn't fall. As Naruto was laughing, he composed himself and asked, "How did you get here so fast?" In response, Naruto just said, "Wait for Hinata." I hate repeating myself. Not 10 seconds later, Hinata came into the garden, panting a bit. Looking around for a second, she was shocked to find Naruto there. Before her, in her normally soft voice, she asked, How did you get here before me, Naruto-kun?" Ko listened closely, curious about just that. Crossing his arms over his chest and closing his eyes, Naruto, in his best, wise old man voice, said one word. Magic. At that, Ko face planted and Hinata's sweat dropped. Getting up to Naruto's laughter, Ko glared at Naruto before asking him again. Okay, how did you really get here so fast? Naruto looked at him with his best innocent face, which was pretty good, and said, "You don't believe me, Ko-san." Receiving a deadpan stare in response, he chuckled a bit before responding. Fine, fine, I took the roof. Now Ko was impressed, and so was Hinata. Snapping them back to attention, he asked, "Weren't you gonna show me your garden, Hinata-chan?" "I'd say you have about 6 to 7 minutes before your bedtime." Nodding at the reminder, she went about showing Naruto the garden she and her mother tended to. She went on, and before they noticed it, she'd spent over half an hour just talking to Naruto about the garden. While she was explaining the meaning behind the Amaryllis, Amaryllis in English, Naruto looked up at the sky, seeing how high the moon had gotten. This one is my favorites. M means shy, and Ka-chan always said IW was a bit shy. Guess I Ju. Naruto cut her off there, though he tried not to be rude. Hina-chan, I think it's gotten a bit late. Looking back, they saw that Ko had fallen asleep on a stump on the other side of the garden, and Naruto got an idea. Hinata, do you have any whipped cream?" At her nod, he smiled. "Good, I am going to introduce you to the wonderful world of pranks, and teach Ko not to fall asleep on the job at the same time. Go get that, and maybe a marker while you're at it, and I'll search for a feather near the trees. Oh, and make sure it's a permanent marker." Hinata wasn't too sure about doing it, and voiced it, but all she got in return was, "Don't worry about it. I got most of your clan with a big one a while back, and I was fine. This one is very tiny in comparison." Her fears abated, she went ahead and got the stuff while Naruto searched around the trees for a feather. 2 minutes later, they were both done with their part and reconvened at Ko's sleeping form. "Okay, now," began Naruto, "the first thing we do is draw on his face. You can do anything you want. I'll even let you go first." Gesturing at Ko with an exaggerated motion, Naruto stepped aside. Hinata rolled her eyes before thinking for a moment. After choosing a design, she drew a flower around Ko's right eye, adding sparkles for emphasis. Naruto looked on, impressed. "You seem to have a talent for this." Blushing, she responded, Arigato, Naruto-kun." Receiving it from her, he went on to explain the prank while putting whipped cream on his hands. "We'll cover his hands in whipped cream, and when one of us tickles his nose with the feather, he'll move his hands to brush away whatever is there, thus smearing whipped cream all over his face." At this point he finished covering Ko's hands with whipped cream. "I'm not sure which hand he'll use, so I did both. Regardless, when he goes and washes it off in the bathroom, he'll see the drawings. When he tries to wash them off, he'll find that they're in permanent marker. From what I can tell, he'll put us both in our rooms before going to the bathroom, so listen out for his reaction to the drawings, but pretend you're sleeping for a few minutes afterward, or just go to sleep." Plan set, Naruto decided that Hinata could be the one to tickle his nose. Handing her the feather, he contacted Kogo. I know you've been watching Kogo-chan, but I think you should make sure you have some popcorn ready for this. At this, Kogo giggled before responding. Way ahead of you, Naruto-kun. Besides, this is my mind. Your mind? Our mind? Fuck it, all I know is that I can make things like popcorn just pop up. Nodding at her assessment of the whole shared mind-body situation, he focused on Hinata. Before she could do it, Naruto remembered something. Wait, Hinata's head snapped towards him. Do you have a camera? Giving him a deadpan stare, she said, why yes. But shouldn't we hurry up before Ichi wakes up? Nodding, Naruto responded. And that is exactly why we need a camera. Seeing her confused look, he elaborated. He is never going to let this happen again. The moment he wakes up, we're done, at least for the whipped cream. This being your first time, he. I want it to be memorable. Hinata actually managed to suppress her blush and nodded. Running off as fast as her kimono-covered legs could carry her, she went off to get the camera. Meanwhile, in his head, Kogo was a bit annoyed. You're delaying on purpose, aren't you? Well, think of it as a bit of revenge for the comment about me screwing my newest friend. At 5. Sighing, Kogo nodded, not that he could see it. It is a bit fair. I'm still gonna get him back though. Staying silent, she let that be her response. At that moment, Naruto felt Hinata enter again. Good. Now go do it. I'll be taking a picture. Make sure you don't do it too much. Tickle a little, then back off, then tickle some more, then back off. Do this until he brings one of his hands up. Actually, fuck it, I'm taking a video. Hinata nodded, a bit camera shy. As Naruto started and gave her the thumbs up, she did exactly as instructed. Tickling his nose a bit, she waited for him to stir before backing off. Going back for more, she did this until his right hand came up to swat away whatever was under his nose, inadvertently swearing the whipped cream on his hand all over the lower part of his face. Waking with a start, Ko came to the sight of Naruto laughing his ass off on the ground while Hinata had her hand in front of her mouth, trying to hold back her laughter, and failing. It was then that Ko noticed the feeling of whipped cream on his face and both hands. He looked at his hands to confirm before his head snapped to Naruto, and he glared, Byakugan activated. He was about to storm over to him when he noticed Hinata breaking down in laughter in front of him. Smiling at the scene, he decided to let bygones be bygones and even found the scene rather amusing as well. Letting out a chuckle, he rolled up his traditionally long and baggy Hyuga sleeves to look at his watch. Seeing the time, his eyes bugged out. Cursing to himself, he made his way over to them both before clearing his throat. As they both stopped laughing, they looked up at him and were about to break down again. Stopping them in their tracks, he said, sorry to ruin your fun, but it's far past your bedtime, Hinata-sama. Hiyashi-sama will have my head if he notices that you're too tired tomorrow. And that's only if your mother is busy. Holding out his hands, he pulled the laughing children off the ground, and led them to their rooms. Arriving there, he missed the wink Naruto gave Hinata and the mouthing of, listen for it, and just went to his room after making sure they were both in bed. As Naruto sat in his bed for the night, he contacted Kogo. I give him 2 minutes before he screams. Scoffing, she replied sarcastically. Well, don't you have a high opinion of him? He's a fucking jonin, at least from his chakra, and he's tired. He probably just shunshin ed to his room. Nodding at the logic, he reviewed his earlier assessment. Fine, half a minute tops. He still has to go into the bathroom. I doubt he has a Miro. He was cut off as he heard a scream of, Naruto. Ring through the building. Both of them were silent for a bit before Naruto went into his mind, after letting his body go limp on the bed. Mindscape. Appearing in his mind, specifically Kogo's house, naked as per usual, he let out his pent-up laughter. Kogo was right there with him, laying across the couch in her mind house and laughing away. As they both came down from their laughing high, Naruto asked her something. So, what are we gonna do tonight? Feeling rather mischievous, she responded. We can do anything you want, Naruto-kun. With a mutter of, Arrow Biju, he thought about what to actually do. Coming to a decision, he asked, is there anything else you can tell me about the seal? I think I'll understand it better now, since Hitatsu-ba-chan started me on intermediate Fuinjutsu a while back, and I'd say I'm pretty far along. Nodding her head, she thought for a moment on where to start. Choosing a spot, she began. Well, when I was sealed, your beloved Tu-san, at this, Naruto growled a bit, split me in half, literally. With the help of the motherfucking Shinigami, which I still think was overkill, he ripped my yin half from my yang. I am actually the yang, while my other half, the yin, is currently held within your father. Due to the seal he used, applying the Hake no Fuin Shiki to the Shiki Fujin, both you and he have a version of me in your body that is now fueling you. He is supposed to be in the Shinigami's stomach at the moment, or at least his soul is supposed to be, but that can't be true because the seal you and he bear is powered by your respective souls. I've been examining the current seal on you, and it seems that he sealed away a bit of both his and your mother's soul into you, though my access to them is blocked. It's set to go off as a fail-safe if you ever seek to release the seal holding me here. At this point, she paused both to collect her thoughts and let the information sink in for him. After a second or two of silence, she continued. Now, if you manage to find your father's body, you'll probably find less than half of his soul stuck within his own mind while his body is just about dead. Not completely, since the life force of the other me is being drawn in from nature and drawn into him in an infinite loop, but the body hasn't moved, and probably hasn't seen sunlight in a very long time. Your father is most likely alive, if just barely, to power the seal he bears. Having said her piece, she waits for him to respond. Naruto, on the other hand, looked at the ground for a long time before looking up at her. His eyes were slits, but she felt no extra drain on her Yuki. When he spoke, despite the anger visible in his eyes, his voice was calm. Is there a way for you to get back your power? Relieved that Naruto hadn't lost control at the fact that his father was still, technically, alive, she responded. You should learn some more Fuinjutsu first. The Shiki Fujin isn't something you should tamper with until you are able to understand it fully. Until then, get as good at controlling your chakra as possible. It will end up spiking considerably if I manage to get my power back, though I'll still probably be a girl thanks to the Shinigami. Fucking Shinigami, making all this bullshit permanent. She muttered the last part under her breath, though Naruto still heard her. Chuckling at her dislike for the deity, he asked, is there anything we could train in right now? Smiling maliciously, she gave him a response he was dreading without knowing it. Obstacle course. You managed to pass the first one in a single night, so I'm sure you'll do fine. As he paled, he made his way to the back, knowing that there was no use in resisting. Real world next morning. As he opened his eyes, Naruto was extremely glad that injuries in his head didn't carry over to his body. Pulling himself out of bed, he went to say bye to Hinata before he remembered he had the day off. As he was about to cheer out loud, he covered his mouth, remembering that he naturally woke up rather early at this point. He also noticed that his chakra had receded into his body sometime in the middle of the night. I probably just need to get it to the point it's second nature to me. Opening his door, he extended his chakra once more, allowing a mental image of the area he was in to form before he made his way towards the place he remembered Hyushi's office being. As he arrived, he was met with the sight of 5 Hyushis working on different stacks of paper as one of them sat in a chair, relaxing with a smile on his face. When he set foot in the room, Hyushi opened his eyes, greeting him. Good morning, Naruto-kun. Nodding, Naruto opened his mouth to say something when he was forced to catch a scroll. Looking at what he had caught, he saw that it was a scroll with a name on it. Single quote, Shunshin no Jutsu. After mentally reading it to himself, he looked up at Hyushi and said, thanks. So, how are you enjoying your free time, Hyuga-sama? At this, Hyushi just waved him off. Please, just call me Hyushi. You saved my daughter, saved me from paperwork, and gave me ample time to spend with my family all in one day, probably even saving my marriage. If anything, I should be calling you Naruto-sama right now. Hyushi chuckled at Naruto's shocked look before continuing. To answer your question though, I'm actually just a clone. The real me is sleeping in right now. Only a few people are actually awake at the moment. It is a holiday after all. When Naruto looked confused, he laughed lightly. Don't tell me you forgot? Today is in remembrance of the battle between Shodai-sama and Madara-sama. At this Naruto gained a look of understanding. Well, Naruto began, I'm gonna go practice this new jutsu. Do you guys have any training fields I could use? Hyushi nodded before giving Naruto directions. Before he left, Hyushi stopped him, saying, I'll send Ko to fetch you for breakfast, Naruto. I want you to meet my wife and newest daughter before you go. Nodding, Naruto proceeded to follow Hyushi's direction to the training area. Arriving at his destination, he opened the scroll and read it about 3 times to make sure he had it memorized. Feeling as if he did this to a satisfactory degree, he made 60 clones. As he watched the clones begin to practice, he contacted Kogo. "I feel like such a cheat when I do this, Kogo-chan." "Well, it kind of is. You accumulate experience in a jutsu many times faster than anybody else. Most jonin can't train this way, yet you're not even in the academy yet. Speaking of which, I know your plan is to join at 6, failed twice, then graduate at the last possible year, 12, as the dead last, but I want to know one thing. Why don't you just join the academy when you're 8? There are only 4 years of classes, you know." Having asked her question, she waited for Naruto to answer. Sighing, he responded, "Well, Ko-tan." Hearing that, Kogo growled slightly before quieting down, her curiosity outweighing her dislike for that nickname. "I want to be underestimated. By a lot. If I fail for 2 whole years before barely making it out on my final try, then people won't expect any of what I can do. If I just went straight to Rookie of the Year, then any who knew of my status would consider me a threat. And I know that other villages have spies here, leaking info. It's the case for all hidden villages. If I am the dead last who failed twice previously, then no one will pay attention to me, at least not considering me a threat. Well, why don't you, I don't know, go on a training trip?" Kushi-chan had gone on a couple, and came back much stronger. Besides, you have the Hyuga backing you, if the Hokage even needs permission from the council to let you leave. Then come back and graduate as the dead last. Thinking on it for a second, he responded, "That's not a bad idea, Ko-chan. I could get familiar with some other countries before I had to do missions there as a shinobi. I think I should try to finish up working off Hitatsu Ba-chan's debt before I go though. Who knows what could happen to her if I just left." At that, Kogo agreed. They were silent for a while, Naruto meditating while extending his chakra, both processing received memories faster and trying to extend his range as much as possible, though wanting to do it without clones for a while. He suddenly had an idea. "Oi, Kogo-chan," he called, getting the attention of the probably napping Biju. "Maybe I could try learning how to solidify my chakra today. A chakra shunshin would look pretty badass to me. Sure, better than just sitting around while your clones do all the work. Speaking of which, there are only 2 left. I feel like I'm good enough at the jutsu, though its limits are stupid. Needing to know exactly where you are going." Kogo giggled at his dislikes for technique's limitations. Once you get better with knowing your surroundings by chakra, you'll know your surroundings, and once your reserves are big enough, they'll be able to stretch across an indefinite length. You don't get to complain. The only drawback, both now and in the future, is that it's not instant, but it's still pretty damn fast. Besides, when your control is good enough, I'll teach you how to get around like I used to, and that shit was instant. Now, on to solidifying your chakra." At this, Naruto began to pay rapt attention. "You already know how to saturate the air with your chakra. Now, you just need to condense it. For a normal person, they would need to have an insane amount of chakra in the air to even be able to create a pebble, but your chakra is potent enough, dense enough, that you will just need to learn control. Changing the density of one's energies is the basis for all yin release, which is used to give form to nothing, to create something when there is nothing physical to create it from. Anything you can envision and understand, you can create. Now, focus on the chakra you have in the air." Doing as he was told, he focused on it and awaited further instruction. "Now, try to bring as much of it into one area as you can, but be careful. The more chakra you bring into one area, the more dense your creation will be. You still need to pull a rather large amount. Your chakra is dense enough that it can interact with your surroundings without being fully solidified, so you need to pull more than you would think. Now, the denser it is, the more mass is stuffed in the space you choose for the object. The more mass, the harder gravity will be pulling on it. It'll look and feel however you want it to, it'll be just as sharp or dull as your envision, hell, it'll even be whatever material you want it to be. But it might just fall to, or even into, the ground and be too heavy for you to wield right now." Taking her warning to heart, he tried drawing chakra together. He only pulled a fourth of what he had within a foot around him into the space directly in front of him, choosing the form of an unfurled Fuma shuriken. Trying to keep the chakra dispersed evenly in the shuriken, he began to pull it together, attempting to solidify it. After a few seconds, he created one, though it was all black. Grabbing it, He compared its weight to the Fuma shuriken he had practiced with when training with Hitatsu. It's a bit heavier than I intended, but the weight is even all the way through. Kogo nodded at his assessment, though he couldn't see it, but asked, is the sharpness of the blade up to par? Unsure, he checked the old-fashioned way. Bringing the tip to his palm, he pulled with a small amount of strength. A trail of blood appeared, though the wound was already healing. In the second it took him to return it to the ground and contact Kogo again, there wasn't even a wound anymore. Well, it cuts pretty well. I'll just create some more clones and have them practice that. The concept is rather simple, I just need to learn the correct amounts for a certain density. You should also start reading some anatomy books. I said you could create life before, but even if you choose to stay out of playing God, and I wouldn't blame you, you can still heal just about anything in a person's body, once you understand how it works. Nodding, he responded, I feel like a serious cheat for doing this, but I'll just have a clone get into the library as Heiso and check out some books. I'll make a bunch of clones read it multiple times and dispel while I'm either in my mind for the night or asleep. Actually, I'll send one to get them now, and a few at my home to read. He created a seal-less shadow clone to accomplish the task before continuing. I'd prefer to learn how to feel, refill on, and manipulate natural energy, if you think I'm ready. Kogo had to think for a bit. I know he is good, but I'm not sure if he can handle all the power. It's very easy to lose yourself to this power. Well, I can just force it out of his system, if worse come to worst. Finally giving a response, she told him, sure. But I have to warn you, this power is no joke. This will take at least a year to master to a sufficient degree, and will boost your everything while you're tapped into it, especially your sensing range. You have to truly learn to control your anger, because if you use it in the village, you'll feel all of the hatred in them that is directed at you, even if it is not brought to the surface at the moment. And let me tell you, it's not a small amount. If you even start to go on a rampage, I will force it out of your system, and it will be painful. Extremely painful. Naruto agreed before asking, where do we start? Beginning what was sure to be a long explanation, she said, well, you're going to need to attune yourself with nature first. This will be the easiest part for you, though this will be one of the parts one won't let you use shadow clones. This is going to feel and be very intimate, so this should be you. With your chakras saturating the air, you are already close with nature. Just focus on the area at the edge of your range, where your energies taper off and nature's resumes dominance in your surroundings. Just feel for a while. Taking Kogo's advice, he just felt for a while. He sat there for the better part of an hour, just letting the feeling of nature's energy come to him, even when he did manage to find it. He felt connected with life. He felt the death of an insect on the edge of a leaf in the training ground. He felt the birth of a rabbit in a burrow under a tree's roots a few feet away from him. He felt the curiosity of the very birds as they stared at him, thinking with primitive but functional sentience. He felt himself and his own place within the flow. He felt his own energy in relation to that of all the living things around him, mixing and intermingling directly with them and the earth itself. As he opened his eyes, he said aloud, wow. In his head, Kogo nodded. That was my first response as well. As powerful as it is, you must never mistake this power as yours, Naruto-kun. The world can sense your greed, your anger, and it will either try and soothe you, or attempt to erase a part of you. Now, ask for the power, and you shall receive it. Keep in mind, this will be more than just gaining a power-up, Naruto-kun. You will be making a sort of pact with nature. Even if you transcend into the realm of the supernatural, you may never facilitate something that is unnatural. Something that goes against the order of the world, for example, forcefully overruling a being's natural rights and altering their being on a basic level against their will, modifying their bodies in grotesque ways to fit your own agenda. I know you don't believe you'd ever do this, and neither do I, but power corrupts, Naruto-kun. You haven't built up to the level of power you are about to receive on your own. It's going to be a privilege, one that must never be abused. Naruto nodded, accepting the responsibilities that went with the power he was attempting to harness. Now, to actually begin to harness this power, you have to achieve integration and understanding of the flow of nature. Just allow your chakra to saturate the air fully, pushing out as much as you can, and, again, feel for the point where your energies taper off and nature's become dominant once more. Slowly move outward from there, feeling out every change in concentration until you find yourself immersed in energy that is not your own. Then, attempt to understand what you will be feeling. The best way to begin understanding is to describe it to yourself. From then, you are on your own. Naruto nodded once more, and chose to move to the garden. He made some clones and ordered them to practice every jutsu he had below B rank at least twice, before moving on to chakra control with what they had left. Using his newly learned Shunshin no Jutsu, he moved to the garden that Hinata had shown him last night. Appearing there, he chose a rather shady spot under a nice, relatively large momiji tree. Getting back into his meditative stance, he pushed his mind to the furthest reaches of his sensing range once more, before slowly leaving his own chakra behind and exploring, well, everything. He felt out the energy of the momiji tree right behind him. Its energy was strong and gave a sturdy feeling, making him feel rather secure under its branches. He searched around the garden, finding insects and small animals, feeling their connection with nature, as it was naturally stronger than his. He found a squirrel and focused on it, getting a good feeling of its mindset. He felt the hunger that it was experiencing at the moment, the need to survive in its mind. He went as far as to nudge it in the direction of some nuts he had brushed over previously, before leaving it to its own devices once more. Going out as far as the Hyuga compound, he tried to find a person. He found one, and noticed that, at first encounter, the person felt rather similar to Ko. As he delved further, he noticed that the person was distinctly more feminine, possessing more grace in her very being than the sturdiness of rock that most Hyugas seemed to possess, and was on the move. Focusing on her, he found that there were actually two people, though the one he had not previously felt was very similar and much, much smaller. He inferred that the chakra must belong to a daughter, a baby really. He then noticed their similarity to Hinata's chakra. Though he saw all of this from a detached point of view, he still was able to retain enough of his normal personality in his current state to think, so this is Hina-chan's mom and baby sister. As they entered the field of his own chakra, he was able to bring a full picture of them into his mind, as his ability with natural energy sensing was not yet very good. He noticed that expressed some feeling of accomplishment at finding him, as if he was one she was searching for. Seeing as he was about to be interrupted, he chose to end his little escapade with nature there. As he attempted to pull his mind back to his own body, he found some difficulty. It was as if his very being wanted to remain connected with nature on such a personal level. After a few seconds, he managed to pull himself back into his normal state of being, though he felt rather enclosed as he did. Attempting to alleviate the feeling, he kept his own chakra stretched to its limit, which worked a bit. Before opening his eyes to address the approaching Hyuga matriarch, he contacted Kogo. That was amazing, Kogo-chan. Once I managed to get outside of my own chakra, everything felt so connected, complete even. When Hinata's mom and sister got in my range, I could feel them inside and out, even their clothes became clear. I could feel the sun's rays being absorbed by the plants, being converted into more energy that all the plants just seemed to radiate. Every bug, every little animal, they all felt like an extremely bright light, and as they entered my range, it was like the glare was being removed from a picture, and everything became clearer. That is only the tip of the iceberg, Naruto-kun. The deeper you manage to immerse yourself, the more you will feel. Air has its own energy, light does too. Eventually, you won't even really need your eyes, you'll be able to sense colors too. You have a long journey ahead of you. Next time, I'll teach you how to tap into the vast amount of energy you were feeling, but for now, you have a visitor, and she's been waiting patiently for you to come out of this trance. Nodding, Naruto addresses the Hyuga matriarch before opening his eyes, surprising her with both his lack of sight and his voice, which seemed to be ageless at that moment. Hello, Hyuga-sama, he began, opening his eyes and turning to her in one fluid motion. I'm sure you know my name, but I'll introduce myself regardless. I am Uzumaki Naruto. Nice to meet you, miss. As he trailed off, he waited for her to fill in the blank he left for her name. Smiling at the boy, she gave her name. Kosen, Hyuga Kosen, though you can just call me Kosen. Nodding, Naruto responded with a smile. Well, it is nice to finally meet Hinata-chan's mother, Kosen-san. At this she got up. I am sure it is, but breakfast is being prepared, and I came to get you. But first, I must say one thing. Before Naruto could get up, she bowed to him, saying, Arigato, Naruto-san. By now, Naruto had broken out of the nature-induced stupor and was back to his normal self, and with that, the bow was making him a bit uncomfortable. "Ah, don't bow to me, Kosen-san. I was just following my own form of justice. Oh, and please drop the san. It makes me feel old." With a more childlike personality back in place, he got up and put his hands behind his head, grinning. "So, how is little Hanabi-chan?" Seeing her confused look, he said, "Hinata-chan told me about her when we were talking yesterday." Nodding in understanding, she smiled down at the bundle in her arms. Bending over slightly, she said, "Why don't you ask her yourself?" Naruto jumped up and peered into Hanabi's face. As he saw her curious eyes, he smiled before tickling her neck. "Well, how are you, Hanabi-chan?" As she giggled, she grabbed his finger, beginning to play with it. As he pulled his finger back, smile fading a bit, he asked, "So, how about we go meet up with your family? I was getting kinda hungry out here." With that, they made their way to the dining area, where Hinata, Hiyashi, and some other main branch members were waiting for them. As he walked into the dining area, he felt a clone dispel from reading one of the anatomy textbooks a single time, though another one was apparently taking its place. I won't be writing in all of these instances anymore, unless they play a role. Just know that clones are generally going to be doing things like this. Focusing on the around 10 Hyuga main family members assembled before him, he quickly took to bowing. "Hello, Hyuga-samas. It is an honor to be here." He was well aware that some of the Hyuga were still sore about the itching powder incident, so he didn't want to make it any worse. They had all noticed him as he walked and turned their heads. Half nodded in recognition of his greeting, while the others either narrowed their eyes in his direction or just turned away. Deciding that they were just being, well, Hyugas, he removed his sandals, so as to not damage the seemingly expensive tatami mats before making his way to the table. "I gotta thank Hitatsu Ba-chan for those lessons on manners. They've been really useful lately." As he sat down, he remembered to kneel, as this seemed rather formal to him. "This family isn't too worn, is it, Ko-chan?" "Nah, they're just extremely formal. Your two-san was pretty good friends with Hiyashi when they were on a genin team with Kushina-chan, but that's when it was just them. In public, he was the poster boy Hyuga. Cold, detached, air of superiority, etc. It's kinda like their job, being the proverbial royalty, the generic kind." As they were talking, Kosen took her seat and all the Hyuga were ready. Taking notice, he said a hurried, "Talk to you later," to Kogo and snapped to attention. They all put their hands together and gave a soft, "Itadakimasu," before they began to eat. Once they were finished, Naruto made his way over to Hinata, grinning widely. "So, Hinata-chan," he began, "I have no clue what to do right now." "Oh, and did you see Ko-san during breakfast?" He began to snicker lightly now. You could still see part of the balls on his face. He was really trying to make sure no one saw. "I'd say we did a good job, though." Hinata was giggling behind her hand, and Naruto was trying to hold it in, and failing miserably. As they both were having their moment, Naruto just barely noticed Ko approach them, and he couldn't react in time. Since all the Hyuga member, sans him, Hiyashi, Kosen, and Hanabi, had left, he got behind Naruto, made a fist, and brought it down on his head with a considerable amount of force. Naruto bit his tongue and it started to bleed, though said bleeding was over in under 5 seconds. As he swallowed the blood, figuring he didn't want to damage the mats with it, and glared at Ko, who glared right back. After their little staring contest came to an end, both of them turning away with a HMPH, Naruto noticed that Hiyashi was giving him a look that said, "Just apologize already." Sighing, Naruto turned back to Ko and said, "Ah, Gomen. It's just that you were asleep and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to say I get the better of a Hyuga. It won't happen again, probably." He shrugged at the last part. "You suck at apologizing so much," Kogo chimed in. Single quote. "Meh," he responded. "I wasn't sorry, it way too funny for me to actually be sorry." Looking back at Ko, he noticed that Ko seemed disbelieving, and rightfully so. Deciding that he'd had enough, he began to take his leave. "Well, I think that I better get going. Even though it's a holiday, the training must continue." Hinata looked sad at that. "See, can't you just train here, Naruto-kun?" Naruto thought for a moment, even consulting Kogo. "Should I? I doubt I can train my Noriyuki here, or much of anything else, really. If any of them had just seen my chakra in the air, I'd have been questioned relentlessly and brought to the Hokage for gaining strength without their knowledge. Ah, I doubt the old monkey would be mad at you, but he is the village leader. He'd probably just want to make sure you weren't a threat. The council, on the other hand, would tear into you. Regardless, you shouldn't stay. I remember one of Kushina-chan's favorite training grounds, I'll lead you to it. Ah, okay then. With his mind made up, he answered Hinata. Sorry, Hinata-chan, but shinobi have got to have some secrets, and with your clans, all-seeing eyes, it'll be kinda hard to keep mine. But don't worry, he cuckily continued, seeing her hopeful look become downcast. We'll leave a clone here to train, play with you. He sighed in relief as he saw her face light up again. Kogo saw a chance to tease him and took it. Ah tilde, you're so sweet, Naru-kun. Naruto ignored the comment, though one could see a light blush on his face. He quickly said his goodbyes, made the clone he promised Hinata, and shunshin ed out of there. Appearing in the middle of his roof, he dropped to one knee. Holy shit, that took a lot of chakra. Didn't think going that far would be so taxing. As he waited for his chakra to replenish, which it was doing at a steady rate, he talked to Kogo. So, where is this place? Should I go first, or should I go get the rest of the intermediate and the final tier Fuinjutsu books from Hitatsu Bachan? Both. Have some clones read and practice that, though you should practice it yourself afterwards. Yeah no, to build up muscle memory. Doesn't that get transferred too? Well, kinda. It's not your hand doing it, so you aren't used to the motions, you just know them really well. At this point, Naruto, who had his reserves refilled enough, had two very sudden, but rather important, thoughts. Getting up, he asked Kogo said questions. I have two questions, before I start that. 1. Do you think I could create a variant of the Kage Bunshin that doesn't have my reserves? And 2. When my reserves refill so quickly, is it from increased flow from you? Kogo was surprised at both questions, though for different reasons. The first because she hadn't thought of that one, and the second because he hadn't noticed it on his own. Well, Naru-kun, I'll answer these in order. You probably can create a clone like that, though it will take a lot of trial and error or some sort of seal, probably. You need a certain amount of chakra for the physical apparition of a clone to be able to interact with its surroundings, similar to solidifying chakra, as I'd shown you earlier. Similarly, you don't need the physical appearance there for there to be an interaction, just a dense enough concentration of chakra or yuki. It is much easier with yuki, but you don't have the control yet, keep practicing that. Now, onto the other question. No, there isn't much of an increased flow, though it is a little. I'm surprised you didn't notice this, but your yuki filters into your own chakra system, and it's still, and will probably always be, more potent than your chakra. So, in essence, this means a hypothetical drop of yuki is the same as a, let's say, mouthful of chakra. Your yuki has a direct line from mine, since it is pretty much the same thing. This is how it's purified and leaked into your chakra, through your yuki. I'll just sum this up before I get into advanced theories that I've created over the years. Your chakra is constantly being refilled by your yuki at a rather large rate. Now that you've awakened it, and said yuki is being refilled by my yuki, since the seal just drains it into both systems. Your body has easily adapted to the constant flow, letting you expend your chakra and get an auto refill from both me and your yuki. Like I said, since you awakened your yuki, it's the preferred path for my yuki to flow, so most of it flows there, where it passes through into your system. It's actually rather efficient, since the yuki refining process that is done by the seal can be skipped almost entirely. Once you master Fuinjutsu, you can just edit that process out, since you can take direct yuki now. To say Naruto was stunned would be like saying Hashirama and Madara had a minor scuffle every so often. Damn it, Kogo-chan, this opens up so many possibilities, now that I actually know. I would have focused on Fuinjutsu a long time ago, not just since you told me about my father. At this Kogo nodded. And that's exactly why I didn't tell you about it. If I had, you wouldn't be able to beat an experienced Chunin into the ground using pure taijutsu, without yuki mind you, while they were pulling out all the stops. You are strong enough to really begin branching off now, so it's now that I'm telling you these things. At that bit of wisdom, Naruto came down from his temper tantrum and apologized. Sorry, Kogo-chan, I wasn't thinking. So, what should I do first? Give me control of your body for a while. As she felt he was about to protest, she quickly continued. I promise I won't touch you in any place you wouldn't like. Feeling his face shift into a deadpan, she revised what she just said. Okay, I won't touch anything you don't want me to. Better. At his nod, he made the clone to get the books from Hitatsu and about 30 to read, reread, and practice the books and their contents before he went and got a change of clothes. After changing into a black t-shirt and dark green cargo pant, he relinquished control and was pulled into his mind. His hair became wild, his already rather defined canines became, in essence, fangs, his whisker marks darkened considerably, and his sharper-than-average nails became claw-like. "Oh, it's been a while since I was out," said Kogo in a more feminine yet vastly more powerful voice that one could mistake for a man's, flexing her hands and stretching a bit. "You've got to let me stretch my limbs some more, Naru-kun. I haven't come out for 3 months now." "Ah, shut up. I am working on a way to let you out without killing me anyway. Fuinjutsu mastery will help a lot, so you just gotta wait." As a pout appeared on Kogo Naruto's face, she just did a seal less shunshin to the place she wanted him to go, knowing the layout perfectly from being inside Kushina. Unnamed, for now, training area. As she appeared inside a fenced-off area, she told Naruto, "Here we are. My favorite place in this shithole village, and Kushina's third favorite, training ground 44. Or the Forest of Death. Whichever you prefer." It was her favorite place to train though. As she let Naruto come back into control of his own body, she said something that left him feeling somewhat uneasy. "Make sure you pay attention to everything in your sensory range. That one skill is the only reason I think you can handle this place." Oh, and Kushina was always confronted here by this Orochimaru guy and his student. I think her name was Anko. Regardless, by now, the most dangerous thing in here is probably her. He nodded and pushed his chakra to its maximum range, trying to make sure he wouldn't miss anything. He immediately regretted it. As soon as he did, he found that all of the life was more, well, alive, pulsing with enough life energy that he didn't need natural energy to sense it. And it was dense too, vastly different from the plants and animals he'd sensed before. It was almost as if, holy shit, Kogo-chan. These plant have Yuki running through them. It's not as potent as ours, but it's definitely there, mixed in with the natural energy. And it seems to be reacting with me and my chakra. Kogo was impressed. Wow, it didn't take you long to figure this one out. Yes, they do have Yuki, but they are visibly reacting to your chakra because it's, for lack of a better term, demonic. It has, and probably always will have, traces of Yuki in it, just mixed in. Yuki has been running through you since before you were you, so it only makes sense. This wildlife will actually be devouring it at a pretty fast rate, so this is a perfect place for you to increase your reserves while maintaining control. You keep this level of control, and even increase it, while putting a strain on your coils from being constantly drained, which they will recover from by being able to give more. Before you leave for the trip, I want you to be able to spend 3 days and nights in here, without restocking on nature chakra directly. Also, this place is the easiest to teach you how to take in your surrounding energy. Now get to it, your time is limited. Following orders, he found what seemed like an abandoned burrow of some large animal under a tree. Checking with the tracking abilities that were mandatory to learn under Hitatsu, he found that there was nothing here for a long while. Taking that as a good sign, he sat in there, making sure he was in the shade, and got into the same meditative sat he was in before. Immersing himself in nature, he made sure to anchor himself to his own being this time, not wanting another scare of being lost in nature's embrace. Kogo felt that he'd accomplished it, so she began to instruct him. Okay, now we're going to have to take this slowly. This is your first time after all. He. Moving on, try and maintain this feeling of immersion and come back to your body. You should only take in an amount that you can balance with your mental and physical energies, so don't take too much, but you can just take in as much as the chakra you have in your body, proportionately. It is as potent as your Yuki, so use those proportions to take in a good amount. The training here will eventually bring up the potency of your chakra, but until then, you'll have to be very careful. Now, try to grab a hold on the natural energy. Naruto tried to do as he was told, finding it actually rather difficult. It was like trying to contain the water in a pool while you were submerged, without knowing how to waterbend. It wasn't listening to him, which was getting him a bit frustrated, but eventually, Kogo decided to help him. Naruto, stop trying to just grab onto it and pull it in. I think I explained this poorly earlier. This is more like diverting a small stream of water from a raging rapid. You just have to divert a bit of the flow towards you, not subjugate it before attempting to assimilate it. No one can subjugate it. No one should subjugate it. Now, try again. Taking her advice to heart, he began again, slowly trying her method. He found that, though it was just getting his proverbial feet wet, he was learning the ratio for his chakra to nature's. Eventually, he managed to take in an amount that balanced with his chakra in two halves, though he found that nature's was beginning to take over and he was freezing up. Sensing that he was about to panic, she stopped him with a solution. Don't worry, Naruto. Just release your hold on the flow and let your Yuki run freely through you. It'll easily balance out, trust me. Naruto found it easy to trust her, and did just that. Cutting off the flow of nature's energy, he allowed his own Yuki to flow freely. As his energies balanced, he felt his body regain its mobility and then get stronger. And stronger, and stronger, and then even stronger. He felt like he did with his Yuki, but it was at least tripled. Opening his eyes, he wasn't aware of the changes to his body, but got up to try out the power regardless. He jumped into a tree with the same amount of chakra he would normally, but found himself above all the trees in the blink of an eye. Far above them, looking down, he could only think, "Fuck me," before gravity resumed its job and slowed him to a halt. Panicking at his lack of movement, he contacted Kogo. "What the fuck do I do?" She just laughed and said, "Chakra arm. You could have done this in your normal state, it should be easy now." Nodding hastily as he began to fall down to earth, he focused on the chakra he still had around him, noting offhandedly that his chakra wasn't being devoured by the wildlife anymore, and created a crude arm of chakra. In his panicked state, he didn't really pay attention to the amount, so he created an arm of chakra that was so dense that it was solid. Not just dense enough to physically interact, having a majority solid black color, though it had a sort of green, teal-tinted outline. A.N. Thinkul Kiora ciphers Ryotsu. As he pulled a bit, he ended up falling down faster, though he swung as he reached the bottom of his fall. As he was coming back up, he began to really enjoy himself, as evident from the large grin that was beginning to form on his face. This is awesome. As he shouted that, he felt, if only barely in his excited state, a large human female chakra in the direction he was headed, with a smaller, male one nearby. Shrugging, he just kept swinging, slowly coming to a speed he could stop at easily. With his casual speed, he arrived in about a minute, perching himself on a branch high above the scene. Taking it in, he couldn't help but sigh. What he found was a scantily clad, Konoha kunoichi, wearing just a short purple skirt and a mesh shirt, what looked to be her trench coat discarded on the clearing floor, and a rather plain-looking chunin wearing the generic Konoha flak jacket and had a bandana with his Hite 8 on it. As he focused on what was happening, he watched her walk up to the chunin, his face being cut a considerable amount and his legs shaking visibly, even from his vantage point. With all the power running through him at the moment, he didn't even need to try in order to hear what she began saying. "So, you would play the snake charmer, did you?" As she was saying this, his back was pushed up against a tree, his tree, and she was closing the gap. For the added effect, she licked a kunai that had a relatively large amount of blood on it, enough for it to be dripping. Even though I think that blood is his, Kogo-chan, I still think that looked rather hot. "Oh, Naru-kun, I didn't know you were into that. I'll be happy to oblige, though." As she said this, she giggled suggestively in his head. Naruto was actually rather entranced, not even blushing at the suggestive words of his resident perverted kitsune. Slowly, his eyes hardened as he registered the negative emotions radiating off of the lady. Trying to discern what exactly she was feeling, he asked Kogo, "Do you know what the hell that feeling is, Kogo-chan?" "I've only felt a couple different feelings, but I can tell it's not a good one." Agreeing with him, she answered, "That is the feeling of betrayal. And I'd recommend you get used to it. You're going to be entering the shinobi world, a world full of lies, deceit, and ordered betrayal of the ones you once called comrades." Having informed Naruto on the little bit of information, Kogo fell silent. Naruto just stayed silent, staring at the scene in front of him whilst processing the information he'd been given. She's putting on such a convincing strong front, but the emotion is so strong that it's affecting me from here. I don't think I should interfere, since, from what she is saying, this guy may deserve it, but it seems like she might kill him. I don't think it was that serious, she may just be overreacting. Then how about you find out? You should probably be careful though, she looks like that Anko girl I told you about. Taking her warning to heart, he dropped down, just as she had stabbed 2 kunai into his legs and was going for his arms. Sighing at the feeling that things were about to get really troublesome, he said, "Oi." Both of their heads snapped to him. I'm not sure what's going on, but I don't think torturing him is gonna solve anything. Anko just scoffed, making the man flinch, and responded, and I don't think you know who you're talking to, Gaki. Now, I'm not sure how you got in my forest, nor why you're here, but I think you should be getting the fuck out of here. It's called the Forest of Death for being deadly, and I don't need the council accusing me of murdering a kid because you entered this place and got your Sarias killed. Turning back to the Chunin, she didn't notice Naruto's look of surprise. I thought most, if not all of the Jonin knew me by this point. I understand a Chunin maybe not recognizing me, but a Jonin? Oh, you didn't know? Well, make a clone to look at you then dispel it. You'll understand. Taking her advice, he silently created a clone, making sure to use only chakra and waste none so that it wouldn't create any smoke, then he dispersed it once it got a good look at him. Taking in the memories, he noted that his skin had darkened considerable and his hair had lengthened. He'd actually grown a bit, coming in at about 4 feet, 5 in. A.N. 137.16 centimeters for those outside the US. And his clothes had gotten a bit tight on him. His irises had become a deep teal-ish green, his pupils had become slits, and his eyes themselves had somewhat thin, tear-like markings running from under them. A.N. Think Tucson from Bleach, but his skin isn't as dark and the Ulquiorra-esque markings are much brighter, so as to stand out more. Note to self, both Yuki and natural energy cause transformations when in large enough quantities in which I don't look as good in these clothes as I do normally. Solution. Learn how to make clothes out of chakra that can be dispersed and reformed with each change. Gotta look the part. Note to self, shadow clones are better than mirrors. Nodding to himself, he walked up to Anko and said, I know who you are, Anko-san, and I don't care. All I know is that whatever this guy did probably isn't worth committing a criminal act over. I'm trying to help you here, just let him go. Anko pondered this, or at least appeared to, for a second before saying one thing. Okay, but then you have to take his place. If you know about me, still came in here, and got this far alone, then you'll be able to relieve a bit of stress for me, if you know what I mean. Naruto easily said yes, she'll have to catch me first. The Chunin, who had been looking at Naruto with hopeful eyes when he started saying that, crawled over to him after Anko had roughly yanked the kunai out of his legs and bowed to him. Arigato. You have no clue how much this means to me, sir. I was sure I was gonna die. Naruto rolled his eyes before answering. Stop groveling, it's pathetic. Doing such a pitiful action in his neighborhood was pretty much suicide, so this man doing it for a child he had just met was appalling to Naruto. Beside, you shouldn't thank me just yet. You haven't told me what you did to get her so angry. His eyes, which had been rather calm, if not bored, hardened and began to glow a bit, sending shivers down both his and Anko's spines. I was just teaching the snake b bitch AL lesson. He answered truthfully, a bit too truthfully. Naruto, while getting rather angry on the inside, managed to keep an even visage and asked one more question. Yes, he acquiesced, but what exactly did you do? The man stopped there, seemingly debating internally as to whether he should answer. Anko took the initiative here and answered for him. This little fuck somehow got it in his head that if he managed to conquer me, he'd be able to get any woman. So he came to me, tried to sweet talk me at my favorite dango shop a few times, and even followed me here after a week or so. The moment I decided to let him actually have a chance to talk to me, the little shithead goes on some made-up tangent about loving me from afar for a long time, but being too much of a to say anything because of all the hate I get. It seems sincere enough, so I gave him a chance, ya know, got to know him a little. For 2 months, 2 fucking months, he just kept trying, even when I turned him down. Eventually, he followed me in here and just tried to rape me, and now, he's getting his just desserts. Or at least he was. Now, he's being replaced. As she finished her little story, she observed him, to see his reaction, though his reaction somewhat scared her and almost made the Chunin piss himself. His eyes started to glow. Like actually glow. He could feel his Yuki flaring inside him, and the natural energy around him rush inside to keep up. He didn't know, but his sclera, a.n. the whites of one's eyes, for those who don't know the power of Google, had turned from white to black. When he spoke, he, impressively, managed to speak in an even tone. I don't really care much about your conquest, as sad and somewhat fucked up as it was, but... He trailed off there, though his eyes had stopped glowing and everything had seemingly returned to normal. As he continued, he grabbed the man by his throat faster than either he nor Anko could follow. Rape is one thing I will never. At this, he forced all the mixing energies into the man, burning his chakra circulatory system, mainly around his throat, causing him to scream. Ever. He increased the flow on this word, actually damaging his throat, making Ever scream hurt him further, and even making it last into the other parts of his body through his own chakra circulation, bringing his with it. Allow. Finishing his sentence, he pushed as much as he could, and the results were rather gruesome, though they made him smile. He stopped screaming, though he was crying uncontrollably, but that was because he couldn't control any of it. The Yuki in Naruto's system had corroded a lot of his insides, while the natural energy had made his body start to freeze up on him. While he would live, his voice would be non-existent for a long while, even with medical treatment. Just breathing was causing him pain, and eating was out the window. Throwing him at Anko's feet, he leaned against a tree and watched, saying, while I hold no real sentimental, idealistic values about General, what he was trying to get from you are the feelings and actions that should be shared between two people who truly love one another. A commitment of a lifetime. He attempted to worm his way into your heart, and then use you for his own gain for no better reason than he wanted to. I won't bother saving this trash, do as you will, Anko-san. I still don't think you should kill him, but you've already done too much to not receive a harsh punishment afterwards. Your choice. Having said his piece, Naruto just waited for her to make a move. Anko, on the other hand, had calmed down considerably, though her anger was still barely contained. She walked up to him, though he was trying to crawl away, and kicked him between the legs. Hard. When he screamed, Naruto winced and began to pity him before forcing the feeling down. I'm surprised he can even scream, but... Do you think he deserved that one, Kogo-chan? You shouldn't ask me. I'm a girl, and I will admit that I am biased against him here. True enough. Refocusing on the torture and probable execution of the Chunin in front of him, he could only hiss in empathetic agony. He was no stranger to graphic scenes, having seen a few murders and helped out in the local whorehouse for the Yakuza, but to see an up-close castration wasn't pretty and made him feel endangered. He covered his private area and prayed for the man's safe passage. In his head, he could hear Kogo loving the scene, but at the moment, he had nothing to say to her. On a brighter note, he could feel the anger drain out of Anko as she vented, and the feeling of betrayal weakened, though it was still rather potent. After a while, she was just stabbing him in places to cause him pain, using the mandatory medical jutsu she knew to keep him alive. Naruto just walked up to her, as she was on her knees, cutting and stabbing him repeatedly, and put his hands on her shoulder. Okay, that's enough. You've gone past the point of justice, past even venting your anger, and now you're just hurting yourself. Tormenting him any further isn't going to make you feel loved, it isn't going to bring any more justice, and it isn't going to do you any more good. As he was saying this, she was slowing down, eventually coming to a stop. He could feel the anger inside her slowly but steadily shift to sadness, but he felt acceptance too. He's not even sane anymore, his body is just reacting on instinct. I don't know what you went through, but don't give up. If you truly want to find someone that accepts you, you'll look for them. Even if they aren't here, you'll find them, I know you will. Don't just accept your lot in life. Fight for a better one. Keep fighting and fighting and fighting, until you find some way to accomplish your goal. At the end of his little speech, Naruto gave himself a pat on the back. Note to self. In case Shinobi Courier goes nowhere, remember to practice motivational speaking. As he tuned back into his surroundings, he felt the feelings of sadness increase from Anko, but the acceptance had vanished. She'll get better. At that moment, he noticed the tears that were rapidly beginning to fall from her eyes. Panicking, he asked Kogo. Ah, fuck, what did I do? What do I do? I don't know. Give her a hug or something. Everybody likes hugs when they're upset, it's calming. You know more about this than me. As awkward as he felt giving an actual hug, which he's had about 10 of in his whole life, to a stranger, he did exactly that. Anko had been thinking on her situation, about how hopeless it was. The moment someone tries to get close, she thought, the moment I think I can be happy, somebody has to rip it away. Maybe this is how things are supposed to be. When she heard Naruto's little speech, she thought even more on her situation in Konoha, but his words gave her hope that someone would accept her, despite her unwanted relations to Orochimaru. The second she felt him hug her, though, the dam broke. The tears she'd been holding back for years just came out in this one moment in time. All the pain, all the anger, all the hatred both given and received by her, all of it came out. It was so strong, she could barely manage to say, "I," before her sobbing regained control. Naruto, on the other hand, was beginning to feel really awkward. I don't even know her. Ah, shit, my shirt is kinda soaked, and she doesn't look to be finishing anytime soon. Fuck. After a few minutes of crying, she just passed out. He laid her on her back, using her own trench coat as a blanket, and leaned against a tree on the other side of the clearing. Seeing as she wasn't going to wake up soon, he took a nap, after sending a few clones to practice with the ethereal chakra constructs like the chakra arm while guarding the clearing and taking off his now soaked shirt. Well, this was rather eventful, wouldn't you say, Kogo-chan? I would. You are a pretty good speaker, Naruto-kun. I'm surprised you didn't sneak a peek when she passed out, though. Oh, I got more than just an eyeful. They were pressed up against my chest, and she doesn't wear anything under the mesh, so they were in plain sight for my entire time here. Not that I'm complaining. He yawned and slowly fell into a peaceful sleep. A while later, he awoke, feeling the blood rush to his head. Opening his eyes, he saw the dead body of the Chunin from before along with Anko, her trench coat back on, in front of him while he was upside down. Looking down, well, up, he saw himself tied up by some snakes. Naruto-kun? I'd recommend you just release the natural energy so that you can shrink and escape easily. Mentally agreeing with her, he put on a confused look before glaring at her. Why in the 9 levels of hell am I tied up? I helped your ass. Anko just smirked before replying, yeah, and thanks for that, but you also got a free show, and you agreed to take his place. She gestured at the Chunin before walking up to him menacingly. I hope you're more durable than he is. Naruto just sweat dropped at that. I was the one who told you to stop. Hell, you fucked up my shirt, he responded, gesturing to his shirt that was sitting next to where he went to sleep. Anko blushed at the memory of breaking down in front of him before regaining her composure. Well, she began, I have a reputation to maintain, so I can't just let you leave after that. At this, Naruto let the grin he had been holding in split his face. Who said you had a choice? Here, he pushed the natural energy out in one big burst, both dispelling what were apparently summons and shrinking at the same time. Landing on his feet, he sprinted, finding himself noticeably slower than he was before. Shrugging it off, he employed his normal Anbu escape tactics, weaving in and out of trees, using Burst of Yuki to go faster than just about anyone else, and making sure to break a branch he'd used every once in a while. Anko, on the other hand, was just shocked that it was the Kyuubi brat she'd been talking to the whole time. Shaking it off, she just used the summons that she had stationed around to capture him, injecting a powerful paralyzing toxin into him so as to keep him immobile for a while. Well, would you look at this? I just caught myself a Naruto. Naruto glared at her as best he could from his position on the ground. The poison was quickly being worked out of his system, but the effects would last for another minute at least. Well, since you just helped me, I think I'll throw you a treat. You can't reveal that I told you this one, Kay? She waited for a response before seemingly remembering the fact that she'd paralyzed him. Oh wait, you can't even talk. Well, I'll just say it. The reason you're hated is. As she was about to drop what she thought was a bombshell, he got enough of the poison out to be able to talk and cut her off. Q-chan, yay, I know. Anko could only stare at him in shock, both because he knew and the fact that he was talking before a full minute had gone by from the poison's effects being felt. Then, she registered the Q-chan part and her shock increased exponentially. Q-chan? She asked, trying to confirm her thoughts. Naruto rolled his eyes before nodding. She smiled, but before she could celebrate a win for the women, Naruto cut her off. Hashirama Senju, Madara Uchiha, and Minato Namikaze all beat her, and Madara did it with no help and no seals. Not being east, just raining on your parade, as is my self-appointed job. As he was saying this, he got up, the poison having been neutralized from his system. So, what do you want? I can play for a while, though I doubt it'll be easy for you to keep up. Ba-chan tilde. Anko just narrowed her eyes, a bit miffed both by the fact that her small victory was destroyed by the Gaki in front of her and the nickname he'd just created. She quickly sent some shuriken at his bare chest, making him yelp and dodge. And so began their game, his shirt lying forgotten in the clearing. As they played, both Anko and Naruto gained smiles on their faces. Looks like I've got a new playmate, was their collective thought, but Naruto's continued, though we will have to talk about that crying incident after this. They played until they were both lying on the floor of the forest, exhaustion clear on their faces, yet they were still adorned in smiles. Naruto, with his rather speedy recovery, got up and asked, as fun as that was, do you know where my shirt went? Shaking her head as best she could, just laid there, envious of his speedy recovery. Gaining enough of her energy back, she popped a soldier pill and sprung up. Before she could say a thing, he asked, what was up with the, breakdown? You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but know that I won't judge you like everybody else in this cesspool. Having said his piece, he sat against a tree, staring up at her with curiosity in his eyes. Now, Anko was at an impasse. On one hand, she could confide in the only person who would understand what she was going through and possibly lose their new friendship, or she could not tell him and show that she didn't quite trust him, yet. Deciding to go with the option that would build trust, if he kept his word on not judging her, she decided to tell him about Orochimaru. Well, Gaki, you know about Orochimaru, right? Of course you do, everyone does. Well, I was his student. At this proclamation, Naruto gained a somewhat understanding look. When he was here, he was the orchestrator of the abduction, inhumane experimentation upon, and eventual murder of hundreds, if not thousands of Konoha citizens, both shinobi and civilians. Most people in the village want him dead on more than a professional level. He's killed so many that the ones left hate him with a passion that rivals the Kyuubi. And without the object of their hate readily available for them to take their vengeance, they focus on the next best thing, me. It's been this way since, a little before you were born. Naruto just shook his head, not all that surprised at how people reacted. He just sighed and got up, giving her some words that sought to comfort her, if only a little. Look on the bright side. You got to train under one of the Densetsu no Sannin, the most talented member of the group to boot. You had somewhere that you at least got an appearance of being loved. You weren't hated your whole life. Don't mope about it too much. Just remember. Somebody always has it worse, and you're talking to one of them right now. Hee hee. Besides, if you don't like it here, you have 3 choices. Make do with it and find some who accept you, change how you're viewed, or leave. I like the idea of the last the most, though I doubt they'd let me take it. After saying his piece, though the last part came out rather bitterly, he just looked up at the sky, trying to gauge how long they'd been out there, causing him to miss the somewhat piteous look she had given him. Damn, we've been out here for a while now. I gotta work in the morning, so I better split. Can't be late for a single day. You know how to find me, I'm sure all the Jonin do. Later, before she could correct him on her title, since there was a Tokubetsu Jonin, not a Jonin, he was already gone in a base shunshin. Naruto's apartment. Appearing in his apartment, he went to take off his shirt before he realized he didn't have that anymore. Shrugging, he just tossed the pants, took a shower, and got into bed. Staring up at the ceiling, he decided to make a few clones to practice his chakra control by making progressively smaller and more complex chakra constructs. Once done, he asked Kogo, I wonder why she didn't ask about that transformation that happened. Meh, it probably just slipped her mind, since a lot did go on today. By the way, you're a nice person. You need to watch out with that. People will try to take advantage of that, a lot. I know, that's why I don't drop the chakra field, just so I can sense people's general intentions. By the way, I need to name that technique, assuming you haven't already. I never bothered to. It's not like it matters, we Biju don't yell out our techniques' names like humans do. Shots fired. Satisfied with his work in the material world for the day, he let himself fade into his mind for the night. Next morning, Naruto was awakened by a relatively large chakra signature appearing in his room. His eyes snapped open to see Anko on his ceiling, a stick of dango in her hand and another already in the process of being devoured by her. Instead of jumping in shock, he sighed, figuring this would become a common occurrence. What do you want? His question was cut off as Anko dropped from the ceiling, simultaneously shoving the other set of dango in his mouth. He glared at her slightly as he ate the forcefully fed food. That, little Naruto, is a gift, from moi, of course. That should cover the shirt too, and if it doesn't, then I can get you a few more. Regardless, I just decided to pop in. Su casa smi casa, as they say. Now, where is your porn? As she trailed off, Naruto choked on his stick of dango. In his head, he could hear Kogo laughing her ass off. Life is gonna be interesting for a while. Sighing, he got out of bed and let Anko search for what she would never find, a small smirk present on his face. Little does she know that I don't need books, videos. Working in a whorehouse with perfect memory and recollection skills has its perks. Besides, I'm 5, fucking pedos. With that, he went through his normal morning routine and went to work.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.